Can the people hear me at home?
You said that.
I bet they will.
Get everything good.
I think I did. And I do have one guest today. I'm going to call John. And I have candy. I just put some on there, like I said. Oh, you must have got these.
So really?
That don't fit in our case.
The meeting of the Shreveport City Council has not been called to order. We will have Pastor Clayton Moore from St. Rest to do the invocation. And Councilman James Green will lead us with the pledge of allegiance.
Shall we consecrate our hearts? Dear God, we thank you for the gathering of these, your people, together at this place for your business of the greater good of your people. We ask your presence to be in our midst, and all that we do would be for your glory and our goodness. We ask this by faith in the name that really matters. Amen.
Amen. You repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please? Present.
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 Here.
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 Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the administrative conference, city council meeting, and the special meeting on April 15th? It's been moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilman Butcher. Please vote. Motion carries with 7. Any council member have any recognitions or distinguished guests at this time?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to, at this particular time, to suspend the rules for resolutions 43, 45, and 46.
I second.
43. Which one? 43,
43,
45?
45, and 46.
46. Moved by Councilman Green, and second by Councilman Bradford. Suspend the rule.
And I'd like for those individuals, Marvin Javajaws and Pastor Woodrow Kimball's wife and Pastor Calvin Kimball, to meet me down front.
That motion carries with 7.
Mr. Thompson, would you read the resolutions for me?
Resolution 43, a resolution to recognize Marvin Javajaws Williams and to dedicate Gloria Drive at Henry Street in honor of Marvin Williams for his commitment and contributions to Moortown and the city of Shreveport, by Councilman James Green. Whereas Marvin Jabba Jaws Williams, a business owner, promoter, disc jockey, motivational speaker, and a positive rap artist. And whereas Jabba Jaws has been in the entertainment business for the past 38 years, he started in the radio industry 25 years ago on radio station Magic 100, which later became 99.7 KMJJ. In the year 2000, Jabba Jaws was hired to kick off Shreveport's first hip-hop radio station, 103.7 The Beat. He specializes in old school, gospel, rap, R&B, and hip-hop. Jabba Jaws currently displays his unique talents nightly as a host of the House Party on Hot 102.1 KDKS. And whereas Jabba Jaws is the COO of Jabbo Productions, a consultant marketing and promotions company, he's also the founder, owner of Lil J's Music and More, which is a retail music store named after his son Marvin Jr. And whereas Jabba Jaws is a creator and producer of many major events held in Shreveport, such as Family Fun Night and Super Safe Sunday for the city of Shreveport, Night of Stars Talent Show, the Jingle Jam Local Artist Showcase, and Family Affairs Skate Parties. He also promotes plays, shows, and concerts throughout the Arklatex. And whereas although Jabba Jaws grew up in the Moortown community, he lends a helping hand at events in all communities. Most events he creates or volunteers for address crime and violence in Shreveport. He encourages positivity for the youth through entertainment and education. Whereas Jabba Jaws is a husband of Shalita Hamilton Williams and the proud father of 4 children, Jasmine, Eric, Justice, and Marvin Jr. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shreveport in due legal and regular session convened that the Shreveport City Council recognizes Marvin Jabba Jaws Williams for his many contributions to the entertainment industry and his investment in the youth of the City of Shreveport. Be it further resolved that the mayor, on behalf of the city, is authorized to dedicate Gloria Drive at Henry Street in honor of Marvin Jabba Jaws Williams. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be executed in duplicate originals, with one original presented to Marvin Jabba Jaws Williams, and the other resolution filed in perpetuity in the office of the Clerk of Council for the City of Shreveport, and it's been signed by all council members.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we will adopt this resolution.
Second. Moved by Councilman Bradford, second by the chair to adopt.
Push my button.
Vote.
Push my button for me.
And
Bye.
that motion carries.
All right.
So we get to one time. This is good. On 3, 2.
The next resolution, 45, is a resolution to dedicate Madeline Street at Robert Street in honor of the late Reverend Woodrow Kimball, Jr. for his commitment and contributions to the Moortown and the city of Shreveport, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto by Councilman James Green. Whereas Reverend Woodrow Kimball, Jr. was a pillar of the Moortown community, where countless residents in the community affectionately called him Pawpaw. And whereas Reverend Woodrow Kimball was a giving man who generously gave to anyone in need, including sharing his craftsmanship with his neighbors, family, and friends. And whereas Reverend Woodrow Kimball Jr. helped to restore homes, he welded cooking grills and turned old kitchen cabinets into works of art. Reverend Woodrow Kimball's other talents included charcoal drawing, oil painting, and building model trains. And whereas Reverend Woodrow Kimball Jr. was a man of laughter who had a tremendous gift for storytelling, using that gift along with his unwavering devotion to the truth, Reverend Woodrow Kimball Jr. became a preacher with an unforgettable message. And whereas on Monday, November the 7th, 2016, Reverend Woodrow Kimball transitioned to his place in heaven, leaving a great void in the Moortown community and the surrounding areas. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shreveport in due legal and regular session convened that the mayor on behalf of the city is authorized to dedicate Madeline Street at Robert Street in honor of Reverend Woodrow Kimball Jr. because of his many contributions to the Moortown community in the city of Shreveport. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be executed in duplicate originals with one original presented to the family of Reverend Woodrow Kimball, and the other resolution filed in perpetuity in the office of the Clerk of Council for the City of Shreveport, and it has been signed by all council members.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
move for the adoption of 45.
Been moved by Councilman Bradford and seconded by the chair. Please vote. Motion carries with 7. Congratulations to both you guys.
Resolution 46 is a resolution to recognize Dr. Calvin Kimball and to dedicate Ellison Street at Hollywood Avenue in honor of Dr. Calvin Kimball for his commitment and contributions to Moortown and the City of Shreveport. By Councilman James Green. Whereas Dr. Calvin Kimball, a minister, visionary, writer, teacher, civic leader, counselor, mentor, spiritual leader, and a legend in the Moortown community, continuously serves people daily through his pastoral journey. And whereas Dr. Calvin Kimball has served as pastor of Lone Star Baptist Church for over 33 years and is committed to making a positive difference to his congregation and to citizens throughout the City of Shreveport. And whereas Dr. Calvin Kimball comes from a respected, loving family in the Moortown community, his twin brother Alvin and late brother Woodrow were Moortown's first trio of brother ministers. And whereas growing up in Moortown, Dr. Calvin Kimball and his brothers developed a strong sense of family and dedication to God, which he displays with his own family, his church family, his Moortown family, and the citizens of Shreveport. And whereas Dr. Calvin Kimball's many community services and accomplishments include the following: the founder of Shreveport Police Pastors on Patrol, served as City Marshal Office Chaplain, organized numerous prayer vigils throughout the city, and formed the Gospel Sounds of Moortown group. And whereas Dr. Calvin Kimball is the loving father of 3 beautiful daughters, Paula, Charmaine, and Rita, he is a grandfather, great-grandfather, and a spiritual father to many. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shreveport in due legal and regular session convened that the Shreveport City Council recognizes Dr. Calvin Kimball for his many contributions to the citizens of Shreveport. Be it further resolved that the mayor, on behalf of the city, is authorized to dedicate Ellison Street at Hollywood Avenue in honor of Dr. Calvin Kimball. And this resolution has been executed in duplicate originals with one original presented to Dr. Kimball and the other original filed in perpetuity in the office of the Clerk of Council of the City of Shreveport, and it has been signed by all council members.
Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of 46.
Been moved by Councilman Bradford and seconded by Levette. Was you about to? You about to second?
I'll
that?
second.
Okay, and second by Councilwoman Fuller. Please vote. That motion carries with 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You all like to have the word, especially.
Addressing this board of young men and young ladies, I thank you from the Woodrow Kimball family for the thought of honoring him. It means a lot to our family. Again, thank you for the thought.
I just want to echo what she just said. I appreciate this. You know, it's one thing to be thought about and to be acknowledged by the city of Shreveport mean a lot. You know, I've done so much and I continue to do what continue to do. And I just want to thank y'all just for acknowledging me while I'm here. And I thank God. And I'm not going to do the rap. Somebody back that back, but I was going to do the rap. But thank y'all. And I appreciate this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you to the mayor and to all of the council persons and staff. I want to thank you, and especially to Pastor Green. Thank you for this wonderful document of some of the work that I've been able to do. I grew up in Moortown. I'm pastoring in Moortown now for 33 years. Moortown is my home, and Moortown will be my home until I go to that other home. And I want to thank all of you, and I'll do everything I can. And all this is going to do for me is to keep me humble and continue to do what the Lord has allowed me to do. May God bless and may God keep you. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Fuller.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to acknowledge Mr. John Ratcliffe. If you could come forward and make a few remarks, please.
Good afternoon. As many of you know, I am a retired attorney who has lived in Shreveport for over 30 years. And although I wasn't born here and didn't grow up here, my father was and did until his father died. His father, Harold, my grandfather, is buried near the entrance of Greenwood Cemetery on East Stoner Avenue. And so Shreveport really is my home. I would like to thank the mayor and the council for hearing me speak on behalf of Unleash Shreveport. Unleash Shreveport is a part of a statewide effort called Unleash Local, which seeks to repeal the state government's ban on local government control of worker protection policies. And I would like to thank Councilwoman Lavette Fuller in particular for introducing the resolution to be considered today. Before I begin, would those who are in the chamber who support this effort please stand? Thank you very much. You can be seated. I will be brief. To be clear, this is not an effort to have the state legislature raise the minimum wage or set a minimum number of leave days. It is an effort to have the legislature allow municipal governing bodies like this council and parish governing bodies like the Caddo Parish Commission to do so. The basic argument for granting localities this authority is quite straightforward. Economic conditions, including working conditions, vary significantly from locality to locality. To take a simple example, the cost of living in New Orleans is higher than in most, if not all, other parts of Louisiana. And the cost to live in Shreveport is different than it is in other parts of the state. Therefore, it makes sense for local governing bodies to set minimum wages suitable for their localities, rather than to have a supposed one-size-fits-all minimum wage across the state. More generally, local governments are more likely to pass laws and policies to protect workers that reflect the views, values, and needs of the individuals who live within their jurisdictions. The bill representing this effort, which is currently before the legislature, is House Bill 422, sponsored by Representative Duplessis and Senator Bishop. Thank you again for hearing and seeing those of us involved in Unleash Shreveport, and for considering Councilwoman Fuller's resolution with respect to our effort on behalf of municipalities and parishes across the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Butcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to recognize Mr. Shane Sharkey with Play Ball Shreveport. He's got an update on where his organization is with the fairgrounds field.
Thank you. My name is Shane Sharkey. I live at 1403 Magnolia Ridge in Bossier City, and I'm here representing Play Ball Shreveport. I appreciate the opportunity to speak again and give you an update. The last time we had an opportunity to talk to the City Council was on February 26th, and since then we appreciate the mayor investigating some of the issues with the bond money, and we appreciate that. To give you an update for our organization since then, we've had 3 additional support organizations come in to participate in what we're doing. Melissa Dobson, who is the director of sponsored projects for Louisiana Tech, and her staff has volunteered to help us obtain grant money to help with the renovation of the stadium, because our goal is to convert fairgrounds field from an abandoned baseball stadium into a multi-purpose facility focusing on youth, high school, and college baseball, softball, and soccer. We hope to do that through obtaining a long-term lease from the city. In exchange for that, we're going to pay for the renovations through private donations, corporate sponsorships, and advertising buys, and also through obtaining grant money. And that's where it's really critical that Melissa, God's just blessed us with Melissa coming on board and the staff at Louisiana Tech. Another helpful addition is Dr. Beeler in the Centenary College Geology Department, who's going to help us determine the terrain of the facility. The baseball stadium kind of sits in a bowl geographically, and we want to make sure that they've offered to help us obtain, look at it and really look at what's going to be the proper solution for the drainage of the stadium as well. And then we have Mike Mack, who is director of Prestonwood Sports Organization with Prestonwood Baptist Church. Prestonwood Baptist Church is a mega church in North Dallas, and they have a sports ministry outreach program which has had over 100,000 youth and adults go through their program. And Mike happened to hear about what we're doing in Shreveport. They volunteered to have Prestonwood Sports Outreach come to Shreveport and help us launch and organize our own sports outreach program, because that's one of our true focuses and heart is to reach kids who may be economically locked out of sports right now and be able to use sports as a way to reach into their lives and provide a positive guidance and positive mentorship to help them in their journey and growing up. I was able to speak to United Bat Control today. So, update on the bats. That's always good to know. So, bats have migrated back into Shreveport and back into Fairgrounds Field Stadium, and they started their mating process. So they're protected species, and we can't disturb their environment until now. It's going to be September the 1st due to new environmental regulations. So we're anticipating the bat colony to grow from 30,000 bats to 45 to 50,000. The good news is it's not going to affect our overall budget for the bat cleanup. What we'd like to do is just really continue to pursue obtaining a working relationship with the city in order to secure that lease. Just to sit down with you and just say, what we need to do as an organization or to create a working environment and get a lease done so that we can start working, because the thing is like we have to raise the revenue. And we've had people offer to give us money. We've had corporations who are in the area wanting to secure advertising dollars with us, and we're refusing to take any money from anybody until we have a lease secured with the city, because we just feel like that's the proper thing to do. So we just wanted to know, what we need to do, because we were really excited after the last city council meeting. We really appreciate all the input that you had and the questions that you had for us, and we just want to know if we're pursuing the right direction, if there's another way that we're supposed to be approaching the city, and just what we need to do in order to get things done. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, and I really appreciate the consistency of your appeals.
Yes, sir.
And before, Mayor, I don't know, I'm going to say before long, I would like to first engage this gentleman as well as Shelley Rago to see what options we have in assisting to make this move forward.
Yes, Councilman, we're ready to meet as whenever you are. I've spoken to Councilman Bowman because the fairgrounds are in his district as well. So, the four of us can sit whenever.
Okay. He's asking, I think it's reasonable that by September, when we can start eradicating the bat situation, you would want to have some type of contract in knowing that you are not working in vain.
Yes, sir. There's things that the bat company can do before September 1st, because there's sections of the stadium where the bats aren't roosting right now, and they can go through and they can seal off those sections of the stadium. And then once they're totally through with the mating and maturation process for the bats, then they can move in and they can start sealing up the rest of the stadium and start with the cleanup and the decontamination of the facility. So then we can get other workers into the stadium and start with a renovation.
Okay. What I would suggest, because we've heard this before. We've heard various proposals for the use of that facility. So you're the most credible, and we want to see if that's something that we want to move forward to. So I'm going to ask that, Councilman Butcher, that we will get with the administration and ensure that we can start something that we can complete, and then we'll invite you in, and we would pretty be much ready to execute some agreement that we can abide by.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. We'll do that as soon as possible. You want to move consistently. I mean, you don't want to delay if we don't have to.
It's just everything is on a timeline.
Okay.
And everything is so much determined on the bats, because being a protected species, there's a huge environmental movement to protect the bats, and we want to make sure that we're doing it properly and being able to do it in the standards that we have to do that, and that takes raising the proper amount of money to do it, to handle the job properly, and also do it in the right time frame.
Right. And I mean, we're saying the same thing. All I'm saying now is that we want to make sure we get the administration, the mayor, and the appropriate department people to make sure that we want to do this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Butcher?
Yeah, I think I just want to thank you for coming again, Shane, and explaining this so well. I think that you have a very well thought out plan. Your organization seems to have things together. I rode by there last week, and it's a horrible sight to see. I grew up going there to see the Captains play whenever I was a teenager. Went to concerts there, and I'd like to see that become another productive part of Shreveport and something to offer to our children for that neighborhood as well. So I'm going to let Councilman Bowman take the lead on that, and the mayor, but I would love to be involved in any way that I can.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No.
Okay. All right.
Can I make a suggestion? I know it's kind of hard. I don't know if it's probably been years since any of you have been inside the stadium. There are two gentlemen who entered into the stadium about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, and they posted a video on YouTube. We chose not to put it on Play Ball Shreveport Facebook page because we don't condone entering into the stadium improperly. But if they did a great job as far as going in and videoing the entire stadium, including the locker rooms down underneath the stadium, into every inch of the stadium. The video is abandoned stadiums, Fairgrounds Field. Two guys, they just have a YouTube channel. That's what they do. They go into abandoned buildings and stuff all around the South. But it gives you an idea of what the stadium is right now. I was really encouraged because if you look past the superficial, you realize this is a rock-solid stadium. I mean, it was really well built. And that's most of the cost that you have, is if you have something that you can just take care of the superficial, you can really convert that stadium really economically. So that's why we feel like we can do it. It's still in the same budget.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Bradford.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. There are very exciting events going to happen Friday night. And Ms. Gloria Gibson with Theater Performing Artists here. Ms. Gibson, can you come up and tell us about this wonderful presentation that I usually don't miss?
I'm Gloria Gibson, founder director for the Theater of the Performing Arts, and we will be having our annual Theater Performing Arts 17th annual Youth Celebrating Jazz concert. This is a Yazzie concert, and I'm sure some of you have heard of Yazzie. We've been here for quite a while, and the concert will be this Friday. We're in transition now as far as waiting for the Riverview Theater to be completed. That's where we have most of our programs. So we should be back in that facility next year, I hope. But anyway, just want to say thank you. Thank you, Mayor Perkins and Mr. Bowman, and for all your assistance to the city of Shreveport, because the city of Shreveport really has been very good to the Theater Performing Arts. And we hope that you will continue your help and your support for us. Mr. Bradford, thank you so much for what you've done for us. Okay?
Who
And-
some of the entertainers? I'm sorry. I thought
Sir?
I was going to ask who were some of the entertainers that you had come in.
Well, this year we had 2 entertainers, but Michael Ward, most of you know Michael Ward, he's a jazz violinist from New Orleans, Louisiana, but Michael broke his pinky. Now, if you are a violinist, you know how important your little pinky, okay? So, but he'll be back hopefully with us next fall, but he just, and we had to change everything. We had to change the publicity, and so we bring it in one of our students, very talented young man. You may have heard of him. His name is Trey Huffboom, and Trey is working with us. He worked with Sharika and all those people. So Trey will come in and take Michael Ward's, place just for this coming Friday. And Trey lives in New Orleans, and he's working with a lot of great jazz musicians in New Orleans as we speak. So we're just so happy that he decided, said, well, Ms. Gibson, I'll come in and work on behalf of Michael Ward. But I think, and I want also to think that those 2 guys that you just introduced a few minutes ago, Calvin and Alvin Kimball, I went to school with them. That's why I had to go outside and say hi and give them a hug and let them know how proud of us, proud of them that we are. So let me see what else. And my other good friend back in the back, I'm not going to take too much of your time because we're on our way to rehearsal today. We have rehearsal at 6:30, and we do all our rehearsing at Green Oaks Academy. It's a very nice facility for all of us, and we're just happy that the principal and the city of Shreveport and Caddo Parish School Board works with us in that venue. And I think that's about it. Thank you, Willie Mae Myers, my good friend over there. I should have her to come up because she's been working with Yazzie for a very long, long time. Where are you, sweetie? Love you, you and your husband, the whole family, and we're just so happy to have all of you working with us. Mayor, we love you. I met you in the elevator. You know what I said to you? Okay. Don't worry about it. He promised, I hope that he'll be in the audience a Friday night, and we have some other people that we know here, and we hope that they would also participate. Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Sharika Fields. We love you. Okay. She's a Yazzie, ex-Yazzie student. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. She's a dancer. She's a dancer. But I think that's about it. So thank you, Mr. Bradford, for introducing me. Is there anything else? Other than that, I'm going to sit down and get out of here.
That's it. Thank you so much.
That's not all. I'm on board.
I'm sorry.
I know we don't know each other, Ms. Gibson, but I have worked with several of your students at Byrd that do theater at Byrd.
Right.
And I just want to applaud you for the wonderful work you do. But about a year ago, I was going through a scrapbook, and I found an article where my first ballet teacher was Luther Cox.
Oh, okay.
And there were only 3 of us. We were the only little people that he worked with because he didn't want to have to work with children back then. But the article was about you and him coming back to Shreveport and wanting to train students here because there was nowhere in the inner city for black kids in particular to learn about arts and to see themselves represented on stage.
Right.
That y'all had left here and gone out and you felt a responsibility to come back into this community and to work with kids in the inner city so that they knew that they could be in the arts and that they did exist in that space. So I just want to thank you for continuing to do that and training such excellent artists.
Thank you. Ruth is still working with us, but, he's with his own production company now. Thank you so very much. Is that it?
That's
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Councilman Green.
They left. I was going to recognize Pastor Charles Thomas, but they don't.
Sorry about that. Councilman Butcher.
I was on there, but cleared me out for a while.
All right. And that's it. That was the old one. All right. Mayor, you have any distinguished guests or remarks you need at this time?
I do, Mr. Chairman. We have Capital One Bank and Healthy Blue both here to make donations to help us paint more than 65 homes on May 11th for our 27th annual Paint Your Heart Out Shreveport program. I plan to be out there painting. To my understanding, some council members will be out there as well. I've been told when folks want to give you money, don't keep them waiting, so I want to invite them up to the microphone.
Capital One has been a long sponsor of this event and a very proud sponsor. So we are glad to present this check to support the event, as well as we will have a team of over 30 associates.
Ms. Nelson, while you're here, can you give us an update?
I sure would. I would love to give you an update. I thought you'd never ask. You see how slow I was walking away? It's about that time again. Time for Paint Your Heart Out Shreveport. On Saturday, May 11th, 65 homeowners will get their houses painted free of charge, along with smoke detectors and other amenities. And we are so excited. We have over 75 paint teams that are going to do this. So that's over 1,400 volunteers is what I have so far, and the number continues to grow each day. And I just want to say that I think that Paint Your Heart Out Shreveport lasting for 27 years is amazing, because a lot of programs don't last for that long. But you know, the enthusiasm continues to grow for this program, and it gives me great joy every year just to be the coordinator and get the phone calls that I do. And we're getting close to paint day, and sometime between this week and next week, I'll be sending all of you a list of houses that will be painted in your district, and hopefully on Saturday, May 11th, you'll get a chance to visit some of those houses while they're being painted, and maybe do a few strokes yourself. Thank you.
Next, we have Chief Wolverton, who would like to come and present some awards for those of us who participated in Fire Ops 101.
Good afternoon, council members. If I can, could I have Mayor Perkins come forward, Councilman Bradford, State Representative Ms. Dottie Bell. I'm sorry, School Board Representative, I'm sorry. Well, I do. You don't want that field promotion? And also, Director of Communications, Benjamin Riggs. On April the 6th, we conducted an event that's referred to as Fire Ops 101. That event is a demonstration / participation event that gives us the opportunity to give our elected and appointed officials an opportunity to perform and do some of the tasks that we do out on the fire ground and out on emergency scenes. Some of those things that they did that day was vehicle extrication. They packed up in a bunker gear, an air pack, went inside the burn building, actual fire. They got to see some of our technical tools that we use, such as our bomb robots, and they also got to see a EMS code carried out from beginning to end. And that would be someone who is pulseless and breathless. From the time the call was taken by 911 and instructions being given over the phone to the companies arriving on scene, doing everything that they do, packaging the patient up and getting them transported to the hospital. I have to say they were real troopers and really got involved. I have to commend our mayor and Ben. They really got in there and got with it. So did Councilman Bradford. He dressed out, took part in everything. The only thing we didn't get to do was go up in the aerial apparatus. That's because there was a lightning storm going on at the time. But they were actually doing the burn during the lightning storm, because if a lightning storm comes up, we don't stop to put a fire out. So we try to make it as real as possible, and they did very good. We have a certificate of participation that we like to present each one of them. It states Shreveport Fire Department. This acknowledges that Mayor Adrian Perkins has participated in Professional Fire Ops 101 program with Shreveport Fire Department and Local 514. He has recognized the fundamentals of effective fire service through communications, EMS, firefighting and rescue tactics, vehicle maintenance, education and fire safety, and saving lives and property. Dated April 6, 2019, assigned by myself and our Local 514 President, Captain Barbara Sellers. We also have a token of our appreciation. This is our Shreveport Fire Academy Challenge coin. That's where the operation was conducted out at our training grounds. So we want to present y'all a token of those also. Mayor Perkins, Don't go away, we're going to get a picture. Don't go away, we're going to get a picture, aren't we?
Oh, we got to get a picture.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask Ms. Dottie wants to come up and say a few words, and also after she comes up, we have one of our Local 514 board members here, Richard Davison. He'd like to step up and say a few words on behalf of our Local 514.
Good evening, everybody. Thank y'all so much. And I just want to say that y'all did not complete. I did mine last year. I went up in the thing, okay? And what I like, I didn't like it, but what I learned more was the fact that when the jaws of life, they actually gave me the, what is the thing to cut the car? We did it all. So I should have stayed there. Y'all didn't finish y'all work. They need to go up on the, just because of the weather. Otherwise, but really, and like I told my colleagues on the school board, we all need to do this. You need to see what those sweet babies, I call y'all sweet babies, what they actually go through to save our lives. This is serious. And to be there to see and go through it, we can talk about it because we've been there. We looked at it. So I just want to say that thank you all so much. Thank you all for all that you do to save everybody, especially my babies and the schools, okay? Thank you.
I just want to thank all the participants for coming. The mayor, Councilman Bradford, I think we learned a lot. Everybody did. We learned from you. Y'all learned from us. It's a good hands-on approach. Didn't fight a lot of fire, but they got to feel the packs, the weight of the gear, what it takes to break in a door to search for a victim. It's not just firefighting. It's the rappelling we did off the tower. It was the bomb squad. It's the dive team. It's the Swiftwater, and it's the collaboration between the union and the department that makes it go. So I just want to encourage y'all to come next year.
Please.
Thank y'all. Oh, also I do have an award from the local I want to give out. Thank y'all for participating.
What station we work at?
Chairman Bowman is also participated in this event. Thank you.
We need to work at a station now. Thank y'all so much.
Can we get one group picture real quick?
Okay.
Everybody look happy now.
Happy.
There, thank you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to echo what Ms. Dottie said. We will be doing this again. We try to do one annually every year, and next time we'd like to have all of you there. We'd like you to participate, take part in, and get an opportunity to see what our firefighters do every day. I think it would give you a great appreciation of what they do. I know Councilman Bradford mentioned that to me at the event that day. He told me afterwards he had a whole new
appreciation
for the fire department, what we do, and we thank you for attending.
Thank you, Chief. Let me just say this. I'd be remiss if I didn't repeat and add to that, because since then I've experienced the prom exposition that y'all did at Booker T last week and in other schools. I would say that the prom, and next weekend you're going to be giving out smoke detectors. I mean, all of this is for the good and safety of our people. But more importantly, it gave me and enlightened me to a very detailed aspect of firefighting. The equipment, the gear. I had no idea that the gear weighed so much. All of the apparatus. You brought in the total system of the Shreveport Fire Department and put it in front of us to be experienced.
Yes, sir.
And I left there with a great appreciation and a great understanding. And I'm going to encourage next year that all of council members, it's akin to, I attended the one of the Shreveport Police Citizens Academy and got the same type of experience, but this one was a little bit more sensitive because it was life and death situations almost every event. And you did not spare resources to show us and demonstrate to us the depth that you would go to save lives. So thank you for providing these type of events so that we can be enlightened and shown the totality of what it takes to be a fireman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Chief. And I hope my department heads are listening because next year I'm going to try to get more of you out there with me to participate. I had a lot of fun out there with Councilman Bradford.
Well, see, you was messing with me so I could get out the uniform.
See, I'm not going to tell the embarrassing story. I already told you an embarrassing story, so I won't even do it today. Next, I want to just acknowledge community development. They've been on a roll. Not only is community development partnering, a big partner from the city side with Paint Your Heart Out, but on Wednesday they will be feeding homeless breakfast at Christian Services, and on Thursday they will host the annual Fun Day in the park from 3 to 6 p.m. at David Raines. This is a time of year when we celebrate Community Block Grant Week. So if your schedule allows, please join community development in those two events. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Green.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like for the video of Anthony Child's death to be shown.
Does IT have that? IT have it together for you?
I just made a request through the mayor's office.
We don't have a video.
City Attorney, do you know the IT department saying they don't have that video at this time? Do we have it in our possession?
No, I do not have it.
Yeah. Where's the police chief? Chief Raymond, do you have? Okay, we have it. Okay. Mark, yeah, Chief Raymond has the.
Councilman Green, there's a portion of the video I'm going to have to switch to a different camera in the car, but I'll do that as appropriate.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilman, play for as long as you want. It goes on for about 40, 45 minutes. Just, you know. Thank you.
For those who did not know what that was the incident that happened, officer-involved shooting of Anthony Childs over in the Moortown area, which happened at the corner of Kennedy and Kennedy Drive at Broadway, not Broadway, Hollywood, sorry. All right. Next.
Back to regular agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Back to the regular agenda, sir. I want to ask if anyone had any questions or concerns relative to property standards. Seeing none. Mr. Clark, do you have a master plan committee report?
Good afternoon, Council. Very briefly, I think we are finally in position to start doing all the things that we had hoped and planned to do. We will get our master plan subcommittee organized, in place. We continue to attempt to get a chairperson for that committee. It's more appropriate that that person would be one of the representatives from one of the different boards, the City Council, the Parish Commission, or the MPC. And next month, we should have those things in place. We also have special interest from another group of individuals that we are planning to utilize in another type committee away from the master plan committee. And these are persons that are very interested in master planning and planning activities throughout the city. And they've been in constant contact with me about things that they can do to participate in the planning of Shreveport. And we are slowly pulling that committee together, and that committee will serve to provide us with input as we update the master plan and as we review the successes of the master plan. We've been in operation approximately 8 years, and we need to take an evaluation of how many of the things. We gave you a report at the end of the year, but we need to give you a thorough and detailed look at where the master plan is. The most important thing that we have done is the implementation of the Unified Development Code. And as you all well know, some of you have been here for a while, we've had to do quite a few amendments to the code, which is normal, to make it tailored for the city of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. We're still working on that. We're just about at a point where the amendments, as you've noticed in legislations, are slowing down. So we're getting those things in proper order. But next month, I hope to be able to come before you and introduce the new chairman of the Master Plan Subcommittee.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Ms. Fuller, you have something? Okay.
Can I make just one other observation? Mayor, if Councilman Bradford could make it through fire ops, I'll be there next year.
We should have all received the budget to actual financial report from Ms. Jones. We have a public hearing today, 2 public hearings. Mr. Thompson, please read the titles for the public hearing.
The first is resolution number 56, a resolution to finding and determining that a public hearing has been held and that no petition has been filed objecting to the proposed issuance by the city of Shreveport of its water and sewer revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $20 million, authorizing the officials of said city to proceed with the preparation of the documents required for the issuance of such bonds and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
All right. This first public hearing is being called to order. Does the administration have anything? No. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have not no petition has been filed with our office objecting to the proposed issuance of the bonds.
Okay. So at this particular point, then the public hearing is closed? Well, I mean, did they have a? Go ahead.
You'll need to see if anybody wants to make comments.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this public hearing? Anyone in the audience here to speak for or against the public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, then this public hearing is closed.
The second public hearing concerns ordinance number 46, tag number 18-04, an ordinance to enlarge the limits and boundaries of the city of Shreveport by annexing the Gulf Ridge Commercial Subdivision Development in Section 8, Township 16 North, Range 13, West Caddo Parish, Louisiana.
First, this public hearing has not been called or ordered, and there's no presentation, right?
I believe there's a presentation by the administration. See if it's on. Malcolm, it's not on.
Yeah. There we go. Good afternoon, Chairman Bowman, members of the council. I'm Malcolm Statlander with the Property Management Section of the City Engineer's Office. This public hearing concerns a annexation of 0.222 acres in Section 8, Township 16, Range 13, Caddo Parish, Louisiana. And it's a portion of the closed and abandoned Gulf Ridge Drive, which is adjacent to the new Progressive Bank location. Progressive Banks, and I have another plat that I'll show you. This area here is the current Progressive Bank location. This small area here is the proposed annexation. Progressive Bank's property is already within the city limits of Shreveport, and the annexation will allow for the filing of this subdivision, Gulf Ridge Commercial Subdivision, to facilitate the redevelopment of their property. The area lies along the northeast side of Ellaby Road, just north of Flournoy Lucas Road intersection. The annexation has virtually no impact upon the city of Shreveport because it's a very small addition, and this area will allow for a drive-through at the new Progressive Bank location. Upon passage of the ordinance, a public notice will be run, giving the public a 30-day period to appeal the annexation. All of the road frontage and the southeast side of the proposed annexation are contiguous to the existing city limits. The city received a petition from Progressive Bank, the property owner, requesting this annexation.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak in favor or in opposition of this resolution?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Arsenault, 333 Texas Street, Suite 700, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. I represent Progressive Bank. This has been a long time in coming. This doesn't affect anything in the city except it will give you a little bit more revenue, but it will permit this to be included in the subdivision as opposed to an undeveloped lot. The folks that live to the back, which are outside the city limits, have reciprocal rights of way, so this doesn't affect anybody's access, but it will permit the re-subdivision which has been part of the whole rezoning process. I want to thank, on behalf of Progressive Bank, I want to thank the city engineer's office in particular, and also Ms. Strand of the city attorney's office. There were a lot of little issues to work out, and they were very patient and very helpful in doing that, and we appreciate it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Seeing none.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman.
Chairman.
Is there anyone else to speak for or against? Seeing none, then this public hearing is closed. Mr. Thompson, is there any items to be added today?
No, sir.
All right. We have the following requests to speak.
Mrs. John Glover.
Good evening. John Glover, 8100 Pines Road, Apartment 3G, Shreveport, Louisiana. As I have observed these last couple of months, we've had much confusion going on with our city government altogether. It started out with the gate of the $450,000 and who was supposed to be the recipient, now to the issue of the insurance and how it was handled, and then, though it has been delayed, the airport authority situation. But beyond that, asking the council, the taxpayers that you all represent, to consider a $40,000 appropriation to the mayor for expenditures or expenses during his transition. See, we need to understand specifically what it is that we rely on you all to provide us, and that's information. That information helps us to understand and not have to always question the validity of what is being given us. As a constituent, as a taxpayer, that's all we're asking, or I'm asking you to do. If it is that you find yourself falling short, just say it. We all make mistakes. We're all subject to that. But at the end of the day, we're not here to witness actions or behaviors that are not conducive to what we have asked you all to do in the positions that you hold. This is not your city by yourself. This is not your city by yourself. This is our city. Our city has been in dire straits for far too long on every scale. And if we don't work together as a united front to avoid the catastrophes that I have seen within these last couple of months, because it is very disheartening. We're not just seeing here in our Shreveport area. We're seeing all over the country, because you know what? There are those who have left this city that live elsewhere. And it is an embarrassment for me to hear my daughter in California saying, boy, I saw y'all, and y'all really got it going on. But you really don't have it going on. So again, I urge each of you, as well as us, to be good stewards of our city, to provide us the stewardship that you would want for yourselves individually and then for us collectively. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. or Mrs. Sartori, I'm sorry, I can't read your first name.
Santor?
She's coming.
Is that the one that turns it on? Yes.
It's upside down.
Carolyn Sartori, 125 Suzanne, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71115. I'm here today requesting a zoning change for property that is right on the edge of 70th Street and Burt Coons. I originally went to the zoning commission and had requested C3 zoning. Both Mr. Clark and Mr. Jean thought it would be fine for it to go on ahead and upgrade it to a C3. However, when I went before the council, they had questions on how we were going to be able to get in and get out right away to go in and out of our property. Since that took place, we have been in contact with the state, and they have said there was no issue with putting our entrance there at the edge of our property, being able to go in and out. I would prefer to have you agree with Mr. Stevens and Mr. Clark in giving us the C3. We're going to have approximately 5,000 square foot building where I will be only part of the building. The rest we are intending to lease out, and we did not want to limit ourselves to something other than a full range of businesses to be there. And I want to again reemphasize, even if and when the businesses that we're interested in leasing to come to the property, they have to still go through and get approved from the MPC and from the council. So it wouldn't be like saying a flat C3. So I'm asking you today if you would please agree to the C3. If you decide that no, you don't want to do a C3, I would appreciate you considering a C2. Thank you very much. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you coming and speaking to us. This is the first reading of this, and it will be on the agenda for approval next time around.
Okay.
So Tuesday, 2 weeks. What's the date on that? Is when we'll consider it. What are your plans for the property? What are you planning on putting there? A medical office, or?
Well, we were hoping, we have several people interested in leasing part of the property from us. Okay. And that was one of them, was a medical office, which they would require the minimum of a C2. We also thought about leasing it to a educational business, which in that case would require between a C2 and a C3. So.
How big is that track? It doesn't look like it's too terribly big if you're going to put 5,000 square feet on it.
Right, but even though it's 5,000 square feet, or it may seem like it's a small piece of property, it's actually large enough for 5,000 square feet and all the parking or over all the parking that's required for a 5,000 square foot.
I guess we've got it on the agenda as a C2.
It was rejected, I believe, by the MPC.
C3?
And so they have to send it over anyway, because they just make a recommendation to the council.
Okay.
But their reluctance was because they were concerned whether or not we were going to be able to have entrance on and off to our property. And we have discussed this with the state. They said there was no issue for that at all.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Carolyn, Ms. Santora, didn't you also mention about a car rental place also there?
We had thought that at one time we would open a business there as a car rental, but once we started investigating that, we decided that really wasn't feasible for us, and the type of business that I have several businesses, and I just thought it would take way too much time. So we have backed away from that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Sammy Mears.
Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. Hello to everyone. Mayor Perkins. Project Swim sounds like a lot of fun, and the reason I'm saying that is because I think it's a great idea, and the reason is I know that with summer coming in just a few weeks, places will hopefully open up for a lot of good swimming, and the kids will have a lot of fun that they can really enjoy. There does raise a little bit of concern, though. Also, it's very important that we have adults and a lifeguard that are present, because they need to be with these kids and not be unsupervised. The reason I say this is because several years ago, there was a kid that went to a place where there was a swimming pool. He was going to enjoy himself, except that that day he jumped into the deep water and sank right down to the bottom and drowned. Nobody was there to supervise this, and finally when somebody called the paramedics, they got there, they got the kid out, but he didn't survive. That's why there must be supervision at all times for this. So adults and a lifeguard must be present so this will not happen anymore, but this will be a good thing for the kids to have for the summer coming. Let's make summer a lot of fun. A yes vote today is what I'd like to see happen. Go for it. Thank you.
Michael Williams.
Good afternoon. Michael Williams, 2101 Carver Place, to our distinguished mayor and administration, Mr. Chairman, and to my councilman, Councilman Bradford. I rise to the podium to address the issue that's on the agenda regarding ordinance number 27. I rise because he was talking about a firefighter. It had not been for a consent decree in 1981 after coming from the United States Army serving my country, I would not have been able to serve on the Shreveport Fire Department. Only because of a consent decree, I was able to be hired. And I see in 2019, we're still fighting the same fight we fought for civil rights. Everything we fought for is still under attack. Now, we done came a long ways in Shreveport, and I see we're doing some great things. I see a lot of paint your heart out, and those are great things. We have a rich heritage and a bright future. But the question is, where do we go from here from this day forward? If we don't learn to have economic inclusion for everybody in the city, we can still have the division and the division that we have in our community. People feel oppressed when they can't be part of the mainstream and cooperate and build on their American dreams of the past to provide economic equality for all God's children, regardless of race or sex or nationality. We should want to rise and take power away from the mayor. In 1978, when I was in high school, they formed a mayor-city council form of government. And those of you that wanted to be mayor, maybe you should have ran for mayor and not be a council member. And I hope that we don't be part of the conspiracy or the plot to take the power, or rise the power, dismantle the power away from the mayor and from the people of Shreveport. The Home Rule Charter gives you the authority to work under the charter. You serve at the pleasure of the people, and we're serving the office is an honor and a privilege. I've been around politics for almost 30 years. I've never seen an administration come in and now want to dismantle the power away from any mayor but this current administration. That's not fair. We need to have fair play for fair share. In order to be inclusive and make sure that little Ray and business in the community have an opportunity to have justice for crime, or for justice for jobs, to buy bread, to promote water, to get an education. Still fighting for the same thing we fought for years ago, but we shouldn't be doing that. We got to change the face of America and hate in our country and division and divisiveness just because we want power. My mother told me before she passed last year, do unto others you have to do unto you. Don't control the goal, make the rules. Those are the golden rules. For 400 years, we sat under this powerless America And we played by the rules. And now the rules have changed and power have changed. Now we want to change the rule. That is not right. That is a political assassination. That's an abomination of injustice. And that is wrong. That's economic injustice as well. And I hope that we pray from this day forward that we never have no more oppression, more division, move our city forward, and make us one of the best cities in America. What we've got to learn, it's got to be inclusive with economics. If you don't put economics, you will still have the problem you have. Create jobs and opportunity to give people hope for their American dream. That's your job. That's your task when you swore. You promote the general welfare and support people. I pray that you do that, and I hope that we vote this ordinance down and move forward and be a more inclusive city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Lee.
Craig Lee, 1112 Prospect, Shreveport, Louisiana. I've had several calls on this issue of insurance. And my good colleague, Mike Williams, just talked about inclusion, and there's not been a bigger fighter for economic inclusion in this city over the past 24 years than myself. But we are at a point now with this current administration that some serious things need to be dealt with. Having a finance and marketing and economics background, I'm really appalled at what I see right now from this present administration. I'm just being very serious. And someone called me last night and said, well, the mayor is now saying that the city was underinsured, or overinsured, I should say. So now we're playing the spin game, and we're playing a dangerous game with the city of Shreveport with a lot of people who have no experience doing anything. And this is just the bottom line. I'm a proponent for young people who have talent, who have experience. But right now, this is not going to happen. We're having people appointed to positions with history degrees who have no thought or understanding of finance or accounting. And this is serious business right now. And I'll say this, Mayor, this is no laughing matter. I fought myself, Councilman Bradford, for contract procurement opportunities, not for incompetent black folks to get contracts. And unlike Michael Williams, I'm sorry, you cannot allow incompetent people, I don't care who they are, to get contracts, period. That makes legitimate black business owners look bad. And yes, it was bad that white folks have been given carte blanche access to contracts, but you don't fight that with more incompetence here. That you just can't do that, period. And we're at a point, we got to set a standard in this particular city. And I challenge this city council to stand up, because it is your job. The mayor can't just do what he wants to do. You all have the control of shutting that down. And at this stage in the ball game, we got to get rid of incompetence, period. I don't care if they're white, black, or other. There has to be a standard set in this city if we're going to move this city forward. We had a conversation this morning with Superintendent Goree. We're now down to 39,000 children in Caddo Parish. That's parish-wide. We make up about 85%, 90% of the parish. But the reason that we have a dwindling population and we're going to get hit with the 2020 census is because the councils in the past have lacked the courage to stand up and do the right thing. We need you all to stand up and set a standard so we can move this city forward. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, may I, Chair? Would you, could you give an example of an appropriate mechanism that could have been used so that we could ensure minority participation in the insurance process?
Okay, so you have Leon Wheeler here, for example, in the city of Shreveport. If you now go to the company that had been maintaining that particular contract and you now tell him you're going to have to identify a legitimate local vendor who has insurance expertise, and now if he doesn't have that specific expertise, you now bring him along. That's a cooperative business endeavor, and now you joint venture that particular firm, and now you marry that business.
The city of New Orleans, for example, you're never going to have the mayor of New Orleans advocating for black firms in Shreveport. It's just not going to happen. People in Dallas are not going to advocate for black firms in Shreveport. This is ludicrous. We're not here to build the tax base of New Orleans. We're here to build the tax base of Shreveport, Louisiana. So you do joint ventures like that.
So
That's
you
how
would
that works.
support us like creating partnerships between minority
absolutely.
projects to help them build capacity?
Absolutely, to build that capacity.
Thank you. 'Cause I agree
Absolutely.
with that. Thank you.
Mr. Jim Roberts. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Albert Brown.
Good evening, everybody. I said good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, Chairman, City Councilman. I've had that, and the staff, I've had that phone number for the last 12 years now.
Would you tell us your name and your address, sir? please?
Albert Brown.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir.
Your address, please.
439 East 81st Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I've had that phone number for the last 12 years. I ain't got that phone call yet. I've been waiting on about that street, that Linwood. And like I told y'all, I'm gonna keep knocking. Now I want to thank you for setting the night. That it's getting done. But Linwood, it's bad. It's bad, dog. And I seen Line Avenue getting done. I'm seeing all the others, but Linwood, y'all, just right down there.
Did you see the agenda? Well, Linwood was on the agenda.
Yes.
So what part of
From let's say from 70th Street all the way back down to 3132, it's bad. It's bad. And I think, Brother Fleur, you told us that we had the finance to take care of that.
It's on the agenda now. Linwood, right here.
It's on the agenda?
Yeah, for today. Today.
That's what the chairman asked.
Well, I'm asking, did you see the agenda?
Huh?
That's why I asked you, did you see the agenda for today? It's on the agenda for today.
So your prayer has been answered.
Praise the Lord.
So this your phone call. This your phone call.
That's your phone call.
Amen. 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 Well, praise the Lord, somebody. and I want to tell you all too. My prayers are for you all, for everybody, and we have to work with each other. I'm praying for you, praying for everything, because I love my city. I love my city. My girls, they live in Florida now. They said, "Daddy, won't you?" I said, "No, I'm staying right here in Shreveport. This is my home. I go out there and visit them, but I'm going back to Shreveport, and I'm always talking good about my city. I know we got problems. Everybody got problems. Ain't no perfect thing, but we have to work together. But I thank you all, and like I said, I know y'all know I'm gonna ride down Linwood again, and I'll be right back up here again." But seriously, on the serious side though, it just I just want to see the update on what's going on. Update. Thank y'all so much.
Councilman Green.
Mr. Brown, won't he do it?
Huh?
Won't he do it?
Hey man, he'll do it. He'll do it. He'll do it. And Brother Bosch, I want to give you your credit. 79 is getting done, and everything. And like I said, my ministry is big because I care. I care about mine, and that's what I do. I go out and look around, and I come back and try to do it. That's what I do because I care. Like I said, I care about my city. I care about my city. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Reverend Linus Mays.
I didn't see Mr. Mays.
Mr. Mays, Reverend Mays.
I didn't see him. I'm sorry. He is out there.
No, he'll be at the end.
Okay. There won't be any comments later at the end, so if he's on the way.
Okay. All right, Mr. Freddie Ishola.
My name is Freddie Ishola. I won't be giving my address again. These death threats keep rolling in. So, a few weeks ago, I was driving around town with one of my cousins. His name is Spook. And the reason Spook has this nickname is he used to terrorize Lakeside as a gang member, as a part of the Lakeside Kings, right? And so Spook has spent 4 to 5 years in and out of prison. He's now a convicted felon. And so the conversation Spook and I were having stemmed around the fact of the irony of our situation, right? That Spook has spent his life living a life of crime, a life of deviancy, a life of profligacy, and I have not, yet we're still in the same position. I am a convicted felon as well. The reason I want to speak to you all today is we have thousands of individuals who are going to go through Caddo Correctional Center and come out as convicted felons. By God's grace, I don't have to rely on anybody else to support me financially or economically. I can provide for myself. Whenever it comes to building my own organizations, that's never been a problem for me. But we're going to have thousands of individuals who come out of Caddo Correctional Center who have not been blessed with that type of opportunity, that type of mindset, or that type of economic stability. So what that means is these same individuals who go to jail, who go to prison because they have no other choice to support themselves, to support their families, other than selling drugs and participating in a life of lawlessness, they're going to come out and do the same thing again, right? And so when we talk about the recidivism rates in Shreveport and how extremely high they are, the reason that is because we as a city collectively have not looked towards the disadvantaged, the impoverished, and the poor of this community and done what is necessary to help them move forward. Here's what I would say. Over the last several weeks since I've been out of jail, I have looked at the amount of shootings, the amount of murders and killings and robbings taking place in this city. And they are all symptoms of an underlying issue. And that underlying issue is desperation, right? Let me give you a quick story about a buddy of mine named J.J. Ruffins in jail. He was my first cellmate. J.J., at the age of 9, lost his father. His father committed a crime, went to prison for the rest of his life. At the age of 13, J.J. had to start selling drugs so he could provide for his family, his mother and his grandmother. At the age of 16, J.J. picked up his first major infraction. At the age of 18, he picked up his felony. I met J.J. at the age of 24, right? When J.J. gets out of jail, what are his opportunities? He has a felony on his record, so nobody's going to look at him for a position. What is he going to resort to? And it's going to be going right back into drug dealing and living that type of life of crime because he has no other choice in order to provide for his family. That's what he has to do. So what I'm urging the city council as well as the mayor to do is to invest in programs that are serious about spearheading something to help these disadvantaged youth. Appreciate it.
Sir, before you go, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Councilman Brown.
I've been community activist organizer for 35 years. I'm going to accept some of your rationale. But do you really believe that government is the panacea for all the ills that we are suffering?
Absolutely not. But do they have a role?
No. We have a role. But I'm saying we consistently get approached by solving issues that are not necessarily issues of governmental remedy.
I disagree. We have a sheriff. Sheriff Steve Prater, and let me say this on the record, Sheriff Steve Prater is a bigot, elitist, and a racist. And as long as we allow cockroaches like him to be in positions of power in this government...
Why are you changing the subject? Why are you changing the subject? No. I'm saying that there are a lot of issues and there are a lot of entities within this city, within the structure of humanity, that has a role as do government.
Absolutely.
And I'm just saying, I never subscribe to government solving everything.
Sure.
And I'm saying that and I agree that there are other entities, other components of this society that should be as progressive of looking at solutions and offering themselves to provide some assistance and hope to people.
I agree.
So I'm just saying, don't make it appear like we are the panacea and that we can address every issue that comes about.
Let me be perfectly clear. I do not believe that government's role is to entirely alleviate these issues. But I will say this again. Before I went to jail for the first time last year, I emailed nearly every individual on this panel and introduced myself and said, these are the initiatives that I would like to introduce to the city. Matter of fact, Mr. Bradford, I emailed you last week, right? I get no response. So what I'm saying is I'm looking to partner with the city to move forward and helping get rid of some of the issues we have.
I would sit down with you any day, but I want to make it clear that this body has no jurisdiction over the parish jail or Steve Prater. And we can discuss this further, but I'm just saying, let's put responsibility and let's put the responsibility and the duties of individuals in the proper perspective.
And again, I'm fully aware that this body does not have jurisdiction over Sheriff Prater, but every time I've attempted to go up to Sheriff Prater's office, I've been removed by police. I've been banned from this building in the past.
That's beyond our control.
It's not beyond your control. You have the ability to speak up when you see things like that take place. If you guys would have sat down with me and had these conversations instead of me having to come up here and try and reprimand you all publicly, and we could have addressed this. We could address this.
Craig Lee, he'll give you a history of my work in this community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Bradford. Councilman Green.
Sir, Mr. Frey, I have an organization called Hug the Kid. I would be willing to work with you all and mentor and coach you all. My number is 635-7118.
Appreciate that, sir.
Yes.
Remind me the last four again.
635-7118. I've done it in the past, and I'll be willing to do it to now.
Thank you, Councilman Green. Councilman Nicholson.
Mr. Chairman, every member of the public has the right to speak his mind respectfully at this podium before the council. But I want to say for the record that Sheriff Steve Prater is as committed and effective a public servant as this community has had in a generation. And it is difficult sometimes to hear a contrary view expressed in the manner this last speaker expressed himself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Nicholson. There are no other requests to speak. Did Reverend Mays ever make it in there? No? No. Okay. We have the following executive appointments to be considered. The Human Relations Board, Human Relations Commission. Is Felice Williams in? She's not here today. All right. I think I saw Mr. Campbell on the front.
We spoke with him yesterday.
Spoke with him yesterday, and Lonnie McCray for a reappointment. Did anyone have any? I think we talked to Mr. Campbell. Anyone have anything else, Mr. Campbell, from yesterday? All right. And Mayor, on the Shreveport Airport authorities, make sure we're clear. Where are we on that?
To postpone.
Remember, we postponed it yesterday.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion that we postpone the airport authority appointments.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilman Bradford to postpone airport authority.
And for the record, on the council record, the reason we're postponing it, we have a May 1st deadline that has been given to us by the FAA. It's the third extension that they've given us, and they're saying if we aren't compliant with our leases at the airports, that we will lose millions and millions of dollars of federal funding. So we need to get that done before we can move on to board appointments.
Everyone vote. Fleur. And that motion carries with 7. On the Human Relations Board.
So move on for are we going to do all of them together, one by one?
I think we can do them together. Should be appropriate.
I have no problem with that, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to meet Ms. Williams. I don't think I've met Ms. Williams.
Okay.
at some point.
An overview of her
I'm sorry?
We got that, I think. Did we have a we did get a resume, right?
Do we want to just review it for the record?
Mr. Chairman,
Awesome.
No,
we
I'm
may
just
have,
asking,
but a personal contact.
No, I agree. I'm just asking, did we get a copy of the resume? We did
I'm
get
not
a copy
sure.
of her resume.
We did,
Okay.
okay.
All right, we can do that.
All right.
Moved by Councilman
Yes, sir.
Green and second by Councilman Bradford. Please vote.
Real quick.
Councilman Bucci.
Real quick before we vote, I want to say something real quick about the appointments to these boards by the mayor. I hate to see these boards become politically charged in some areas. I've served on a board before. I've answered to a board before, and this is nothing against anybody on here, but I just felt like I needed to say this. I just want the members of these boards that we're electing to realize that their number one goal is to serve the public, regardless if they support the mayor or they don't support the mayor. We're not always going to agree. Not everybody voted for me, but I still represent them. And I see a lot of Facebook comments out there that anger me. I want everybody to remember that what we're here for a better Shreveport, and we all need to start working together for that. So I just wanted to remind everybody that gets on these boards, and I'll say this again to whoever comes up next, that we owe it to the citizens of Shreveport to stay focused on the jobs that we're putting you in. And I just think that that's important, and I appreciate anybody that's willing to serve because it is a commitment. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Bucci. Everyone vote. Councilman Bradford. And that motion carries with 7.
And that was to approve all three, is that?
Yes,
All
sir.
3, yes, sir.
Chairman,
Councilwoman Fuller.
would you just indulge me for just a second? Because I'm not going to sleep well enough if I don't say something about this.
Councilwoman Fuller.
Now, Councilman Nicholson, I respect your point of view, and I've never had an issue with the sheriff. My dad worked with him when he was a police officer and the sheriff was the chief. But I do take umbrage with policing the point of view of a constituent. I don't particularly care for character assassination, Freddie. I don't care for the character assassination publicly. It's not necessarily the right thing to do, but you are entitled to your point of view, and I don't think that anybody here has the right to try to invalidate it. That's all. Thank you.
Councilman Nicholson.
Councilman Fuller, you're my dear friend and colleague. My intention was not to police the constituents' remarks. I made clear that every member of the public has a right to say with respect anything germane to the public's business, to this body. I will stand by that for the duration of my time on the council. But I agree with you that character assassination is not a good use of time at the podium for members of the public, and it's just hard for me to sit and listen to anybody unfairly call a man like Steve Prater, who, in my view, has done so much for this community, the things that Mr. Ishola called him. He has a right to his opinion. He has a right to express it. And as a member of this body, I have a right to mine. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Ma'am, please. I'm going to remind you, please, I have to be in order in this room, please. I understand that sometimes you get emotional. If you have a request to speak, please put in a request to speak, or I will have to ask you to leave the room. Please don't do that. Councilman Butcher.
I'm going to get real simple here with this. This is the people's house. It doesn't belong to us. I don't want anybody to say whatever they want to say in here. However, having said that, it's election year. That's where you need to do most of your speaking, is out on the campaign trail. If we're dissatisfied with the leaders of this city or this parish, find you a candidate and vote for them. And that includes city councilmen. So it's real simple. So this is the people's house. You come and you tell me whatever you want to hear. If you want to tell me how to bake cookies, I'll listen to it. I was elected to do that. So thank you. I like them with pecans in them. So, but that's what we're here to do. We are elected by the citizens. This is your house, and I will listen to you. I don't like character assassination. There are things that are said in here that are sensitive to me personally that have happened in my life. But I'm here, and we got to have tough skin. And I would just suggest that the polls open in October to elect a new sheriff. If you got a candidate, let's push him. Not me, but y'all. Thank you.
All right. I just want to, I guess, to add on to what was just said. I do believe that this is the people's house, and comments are welcome. Sometimes it gets rough, and we hear things that we probably don't want to hear. Sometimes we see things that go on here we probably don't want, but that's life. That's what we're here for. And during election time is when we get kicked, our butt get kicked the worst at that particular time. Trust me. So we just have to take some tough skin and move on. Now, if you have a personal assassination, I hate to see people come up and belittle folks, but again, that's a part of the process that we stepped up to the plate to do. So I just wanted to say that. Moving on. There are no items on the consent agenda?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please proceed with regular agenda items.
Resolutions 43, 45, and 46 have been adopted. Resolution 47 authorizes the mayor and the Shreveport police chief to execute a memorandum of agreement between the city of Shreveport Police Department and the Louisiana National Guard for the purpose of setting forth the policies and procedures concerning the management, use, and support of National Guard equipment and its personnel assigned to conduct counter-drug support missions and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councilman Butcher and second by Councilman Bradford. If there's no discussion on that, please vote. Butcher. Motion carries with 7.
Resolution 48 authorizes the mayor to execute a permanent utility servitude agreement between the city of Shreveport and Ascension Classical School for the sanitary sewer main along Southern Loop.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Butcher and seconded by Councilman Fleury. If there's no discussion, please vote. Motion carries with 7. Ms. Thompson.
Resolution 49 authorizes the mayor to execute an acceptance of act of donation between the city of Shreveport and Ascension Classical School for the sanitary sewer main and related facilities along Southern Loop to serve Ascension Classical School.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Butcher. Second. And second by Councilman Fleury. If there's no discussion, please vote. (49) passes with 7.
Resolution 50 authorizes the mayor to execute a permanent utility servitude agreement between the city of Shreveport and A.B. Glenn Properties, LLC for the sanitary sewer main along Southern Loop and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilman Butcher and seconded by Councilman Fleury. If there's no discussion, please vote. Motion carries with 7. Ms. Thompson.
Resolution 51 authorizes the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the FIM Prize Foundation, Inc. and the city.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the chair, seconded by Councilman Butcher. If there's no discussion, please vote. Motion carries with 7. Mr. Thompson.
Resolution 52 authorizes the donation of surplus property, specifically motorized vehicles for the Shreveport Police Department, which are not needed for public purposes, to a political subdivision.
So moved. It's been moved by Councilman Green and seconded by the chair. If there's no discussion, please vote. Councilman Butcher. Motion carries with 7. Ms. Thompson.
Resolution 54 is a resolution of the City of Shreveport urging the Louisiana State Legislature to repeal state overreach into local control of worker protection policies and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilwoman Fuller and second by Councilman Green. There's no discussion. Please vote. That motion carries with 7. Number 54.
Resolution 55 is a resolution to support the LSU Health Sciences Center Shreveport Medical Education and Wellness Building Project.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Green and second by the chair. There's no discussion. Please vote. Motion carries with 7.
Resolution 56 finds and determines that a public hearing has been held and that no petition has been filed objecting to the proposed issuance by the city of its water and sewer revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $20 million, authorizing the officials of the city of Shreveport to proceed with the preparation of the documents required for the issuance of such bonds and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
So moved.
Yeah, second.
It's been moved by the chair, second by Councilman Bradford. There's no discussion. Please vote. And that motion carries with 7.
Mr. Chairman, there's one resolution for introduction. It's 57. It authorizes the mayor to accept a monetary donation of $75,000 from Judah and Astra Hertz of the city of Shreveport to the city of Shreveport to be utilized by the Shreveport Public Assembly and Recreation Department for Project Swim.
All right.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
So moved by Councilman Bradford, second by the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I think under the present rules, no vote is required. Is that right, Mr. Chairman?
No vote. No, sir. Got it. Is there a motion to, continue with the introduction of ordinances?
We're now in the introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to May the 14th. Ordinance 50 amends the City of Shreveport's 2019 capital improvements budget. Ordinance 51 amends the 2019 general fund budget. Ordinance 52 amends the 2019 general fund budget. Ordinance 53 amends and reenacts certain sections of Chapter 94 of the Code of Ordinances relative to utilities. Ordinance 54 is a zoning matter, case number C-24-19. It rezones property located on the southwest corner of East 70th Street and East Burt Coons Industrial Loop from R17 Single Family Residential District to C3 General Commercial District. Ordinance number 55 is a zoning case number C-25-19. It rezones property located on 1925 Crosslink Boulevard from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to R17 Single Family Residential District. Ordinance 56 is a zoning matter case number C-27-19. It rezones property located on the west side of Linwood Avenue between Bollinger Street and Wilkinson Street from I-2 Heavy Industrial District to C3 General Commercial District to C4 Heavy Commercial District. Ordinance 57 is zoning concerning case number C-30-19. It rezones property located on the southeast corner of West Burt Coons Industrial Loop in Westport from C3 General Commercial District to I-1 Light Industrial District.
Is there a motion to introduce these ordinances?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Bradford, second by Councilman Butcher. To introduce.
We're now into ordinances on second reading and final passage. The first is ordinance number 26. That was a request to table.
So
Mr.
moved.
Butcher.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Bradford, second by Councilman Butcher to postpone. Is it postpone or table?
Table.
Table.
I'm sorry. And 26.
Mayor, you're still cool with that? Table now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Motion carries with 7.
Mr. Chairman, we're now into ordinance number 27 to repeal and replace Article 7 purchases and Chapter 26 finance of the Code of Ordinances. There are 3 amendments. Amendment number 1, the change is in Exhibit B, it removes subsection A titled Bond Counsel of Section 26-273 Professional Services. So this removes from the original ordinance the section concerning bond counsel.
How do we proceed, Mr. Thompson, you suggest?
I think this first amendment is one that will determine whether you go forward with the rest of it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Nicholson.
Councilman Bradford, I want to thank you for the very good and productive conversation about this ordinance that you initiated yesterday. As we discussed, Amendment 1 will remove from the ordinance the requirement of a competitive selection process for bond counsel and other professionals. That's something I committed to do during our last council meeting because a majority of the council was not prepared to move forward on that. I may introduce that as a separate ordinance at a future time. Ordinance 2, which we also discussed yesterday, would impose a $100,000 threshold beyond which the mayor would have to obtain the council's approval to sign contracts or otherwise make expenditures. The administration has expressed concern that a $100,000 threshold would be cumbersome, that it would require too much work to come to the council for expenditures of that amount. Councilman Fleury has proposed, by means of Amendment 3, a $500,000 threshold. A $500,000 threshold, I believe, would largely resolve the administration's concerns about the administrative burden of presenting contracts to the council, so that only contracts and expenditures over $500,000 would come before the council for final approval. As I said yesterday, many municipalities across the country require council approval for amounts lower than $100,000 and much lower than $500,000. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Councilman Fleury's taking the time to engage on this ordinance and his authoring Amendment 3. I think Amendment 3 ought to be adopted, and that a threshold of $500,000 is a good place for us to start. We may decide as a council at a future date to change or reduce that threshold, or we may not. But at least with the imposition of a $500,000 threshold, the largest expenditures and the largest contracts that the city enters will be subject to council approval and the public scrutiny that comes along with it. So my suggestion, Mr. Chairman and Councilman Bradford, is that we adopt Amendment 1, which will remove the competitive bond selection process from this amendment, that we pass on Amendment 2, and that we adopt Amendment 3, which will impose a $500,000 threshold. Thank you.
Councilman Green.
Mr. Chair, because I'm just finding out about this particular amendment, I would like the courtesy of postponing this until the next meeting.
Councilman Bradford.
Okay, and I have no problem with offering the courtesy, but let me just say, yesterday we had a very, I thought, healthy discussion. It pretty much detailed my position. I looked at Amendment 3, and I'm going to make a statement. I looked at Amendment 3. I told you yesterday, Amendment 1, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. I didn't see it. I think I have a conversation and found out what amount of contracts or procurements would $100,000 affect, Mayor? On a weekly basis, what do you engage with those kind of numbers?
Councilman, I mean, just using rough math, we're looking at like 5 to 7 contracts to be approved every 2 weeks.
On 100,000.
On 100,000. Oh no, on 100,000, you're looking at high 20s on the amount of contracts you would have to approve every 2 weeks.
And on 500,000.
500,000, you're looking at upwards of, like I said, about, what is this? You're looking at upwards of about 5 to 7 per every two council meetings. But again, that's just what you all have to do, the work you have to do. It's not considering the operational impact of postponing some of these contracts that need to be signed under a tight time frame.
I'm going to say something Councilman Fleury knows, but I'm going to tell you the rest of you that I believe in accountability. Okay, my adult life has been in management. My brother worked for me once upon a time, and when you see me talking, I like to express to people my complete expectations. That's why sometimes I talk too much, but I don't want to nobody ever be unclear on what I expect of them. This is what I expect. My brother did not meet my expectations. I had to fire him and go home and face my mama. So I'm saying making decisions is not hard for me. Okay, they're not hard for me at all. I always have to be able to defend my votes. I like working with this council. I think if this council would have been in place 20 years ago, we'll be that far advanced as far as the city. Because like on other councils, and I wasn't on those councils, but I was a frequent attendee of city council meetings. There were some times that there was no communication. Councilman Green came on the council in 1994, and he served 2 terms. And he would tell you consistently on votes that was in the best interest, not in the best interest of any sector, but in the best interest of the city, those votes went down racial lines. And I thought that was so unfair. I saw it time and time again, where there was times where compromise or negotiations was off the table. These are our values, these are our realities, and we voted the way we thought we ought to vote to maintain a certain degree of standards or status. That's not me. I'm open for negotiation. I'm open for compromise. And I'm open for accountability. I said on yesterday that I was not ready to look at Amendment 2 to take away from the mayor's authority the ability to move expeditiously on certain contracts and procurements. Amendment 3 is a little bit more appealing to me. A little bit more, $500,000, and to ensure a degree of accountability, to give us and our constituents some comfort there. I don't want to dismiss. Please don't dismiss the reality, whether it's perception or not, that some of our residents don't think that we are being prudent and responsive. And there's some decisions we're going to have to make that's going to be unpopular in some ways, but we got to do what we feel we need to do. I do not want this council to become polarized. I want us to be as best as we can. We ain't always agree, but I want the best we can. We want to do what's right. And I'm willing to, at this point, compromise and say I can accept number 3, $500,000 threshold. And let's move forward with the business of the city. That's my appeal. And I would like to move that we adopt Amendment 1.
Second. Mr. Chair, point of order. I ask as a courtesy, as was given to Councilman Nicholson on the other week, that this would be postponed. I'm not where you are, I'm not where you all are. So as a courtesy, because Councilman Nicholson, you're the author, Councilman Fleury, you are the amendment or author, I'd like the courtesy of postponing.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak if I could.
If Councilman Green is finished. And then I have Councilman Butcher.
Mr. Fleury, you can go ahead.
Okay. Finish.
Members of the council, I would just ask that you consider giving me a vote up or down on my amendment today. Thank you.
For 11 years, I served as an administrator of a public entity, and I answered to a board of 5 or 6. And it is cumbersome to ask for permission on every expenditure that you have. But I kind of found that even when I didn't have to get approval for things, I discussed it with them because I didn't want to ever have any surprises. And our budget was $2.5 million, which is nowhere close to what the city of Shreveport's budget is. I always felt like that being a good steward of taxpayer money is what we were elected to do and why we were here. Me even entertaining this ordinance has absolutely nothing to do with who the mayor is. And I mean that 100%. I would support this ordinance. I was a little hesitant about the $100,000, to be honest with you, just due to the fact, kind of like what Councilman Bradford said here. It is a little cumbersome, and if we're having to go over every paper clip that's bought, that's ridiculous. We're talking about large contracts here, and you know, I just feel like that this body has been tasked for change, and I say that all the time, and I hate to keep saying that, but it's true. And we work very well together. I think that all of us on this council can communicate with each other very openly and very candidly, and I don't ever want to see that stop. I don't want to see us get polarized over something. But I do think that the citizens of Shreveport, and the feedback I've gotten in the last couple of weeks, is they do want some more oversight. And like I said, I'll be honest with you, I probably would have been in favor of this regardless of who the mayor is and regardless of the missteps and that I feel like have happened over the last couple of months. This has absolutely nothing to do with the mayor. This is about progress and change. You look at medium-sized cities, our size, Baton Rouge, for example, Houston, they all have procurement processes like this in place. As far as Councilman Green, I respect him 100%, but I think that I'm ready to move on with this. I don't want 2 more weeks of this discussion. I will be supporting amendment number 3, Mr. Fleury's amendment. I think it's a good amendment. I think it's something this council worked, or at least a few council members worked out some differences that they had. And anything that we do, I feel like is in the best interest of the people that elected me to be here and the people that want us to be good stewards of your taxpayer money. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman, is that new, Councilman Nicholson?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I want to echo Councilman Butcher's remarks concerning the motivation for this ordinance. As I said to multiple members of the media yesterday and this morning, I didn't propose this ordinance out of a concern about the actions of a particular mayor. When I got elected to office and I looked at the city's process for spending money, I was very surprised that the executive had the authority to spend any amount of money that had been budgeted without coming back to the council. You know, I have served on, over the past 10 or 15 years, numerous boards where I've been a board member and we've had an executive of one kind or another. And on all those boards, there has been a threshold beyond which the executive officer of the organization has got to circle back to the board and obtain approval. I heard Mayor Perkins' concerns that a $100,000 threshold would be cumbersome and would make it hard to do business. I heard Councilman Bradford's concerns. The $500,000 threshold that Councilman Fleury has proposed is a very reasonable and very modest change to the way the city does business, and it is not going to impede anybody's ability to get done what the city needs to get done. But it is going to make sure that before big checks go out the door, or before contracts that obligate the city to send big checks go out the door, that the public has an opportunity to hear those items discussed and debated in this chamber. And that's really what we are all about, or what we ought to be about. Councilman Butcher said a few minutes ago that this is the people's house, and in the city of Shreveport, that's right. We're here to do the people's business, and for very large expenditures, I think the people ought to have the benefit of public discussion. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Perkins.
I'd like to call up two of my department heads to talk about the impact that Ordinance 2 would have. We just saw Amendment 2. We just saw Amendment 3 today as well, so we haven't been able to do analysis on that. But this will give you a glimpse at some of the impact that waiting for the contracts to have. Keith Hansen. Yep, there he goes. Keith Hansen, can you come up, and Barbara, can you come up as well? So we have the Chief Technology Officer, and we have the Director for Water and Sewer to come up and give some illustrations on what this is.
Mr. Chairman, I'm always delighted to hear from Mr. Hampson, but I'm the author of Amendment 2, and I don't intend to offer it for consideration. The council's not going to adopt Amendment 2 today in light of the concerns that the mayor expressed yesterday and that Councilman Bradford expressed.
So, Councilman, can I have them speak? Like I said, this will shed light on Amendment 3 as well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So today, can I get the laptop up here? I wanted to show you guys a tool. You all know the People's Budget. It is this on too? It's available to the public, but there is a back-end interface that I've been dying to get the council into. So I wanted to show you guys a tool that I think you'll appreciate. And just give me a second to pull this up. Okay, so I heard the cry for transparency, and that's exactly what I am about as well. I am trying to open up our data and share as much transparency as possible, particularly with council. This shows you all contracts, all purchase requests, and all checks going through our city right now, their status, etc. So if you are looking for transparency and oversight, you can take a look at this tool, and I have logins for each of you. This back-end interface you can go to and dive into the data, craft your own questions with, etc. This data is coming out of our logo system. Probably some of the old guard here knows about logos. But that is where every single contract and expenditure is logged and available for you to look at. If you didn't know this, that is where we are all waiting on our contracts inside of our departments to be approved and go through the generally 9 steps of approval. This tool as well, I wanted to just explain the value of a business intelligence tool like this. So I put this together myself using open source free tools. To get a commercial equivalent to this, I pulled up the bid for Austin that Socrata, a wildly popular and arguably the solution for open data tools, that was a $60,000 expenditure. So you have a tool at your disposal that is worth everywhere else $60,000 and cost us nothing. That I would be thrilled to train anyone on. I have trained council staff, given a first gotten them through the first paces here. But if there are questions or particular pieces of data that you want to see that you don't, it's a few queries away for me to get that in front of you, and I can even show you how to do that yourself without asking anyone.
Any questions from council? All right, Barbara, can you come up? Oh, you got, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, please. Mr. Hanson, have you seen the website checkbook LA and it gives it has the contracts. It's
Yep.
got a lot of different things on
Yeah.
there. Have you? Yeah.
So
this looks now. Help me out now.
Sure.
You're saying that what you showed me is available now to the council.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you're willing to train council members to get to that, so that we
Excited
can
to.
Is this what you call y'all sometimes refer to as a live budget? Is that what I've heard you say? Something like that?
Well, yeah, it is. So it's like real-time information for you.
It's the
but we
people's.
haven't-
It's the people's budget.
No,
That's
this
right,
is
it is.
yeah. So it's the people's budget, but this is another component specifically geared for you all to give you real-time information. The people's budget is a retrospective look at the budget from last year that you can look at and how it's allocated, or the one that we're going through now, fiscal year
Correct.
19.
As well, so the state uses their own platform that they're migrating all the agencies to into their data warehouse. Baton Rouge has their version of Open Checkbook for Baton Rouge.
City of Baton Rouge now? You
Correct, correct. And that is built off of Socrata, which is what kind of spearheaded some of my research into looking into how popular it was, where as well as it used. I've spoken with a local data scientist who was all about that platform, knows it inside and out. It really helps people download the data easily and analyze it with a few button clicks out in public. That tool is typically $60,000 for year one and $30,000 for every year after that. This is free to us. So I would love to utilize it.
Yeah, well, we want the public to know about it too, because this is great information.
Sure. The public can see the public side of this data. So this interface that I had up on the screen is the back-end interface for you guys to go as deep as you want to go. The front side of this is budget.shreveportla.gov.
Mr. Fleury, can I say something real quick?
You sure can.
Mayor and Mr. Hanson, I think that it might be a good idea for Mr. Hanson to give us about 5 or 6 dates for a lunch meeting for us, for the council to be able to come. Unfortunately, we're not full-time. We all have other jobs. If you give us 4 or 5 dates of availability, I'd be more than happy to pick a date and come in.
Sure.
Spend an hour with you to learn how to do this. I think it would be great if some of us were in it together. We can be interactive because some are much more computer savvy than others. So I would like to see the administration and the CTO offer the council over the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 4 or 5 dates where we could come in and sit and really dig into this thing. Because I think if you leave it to us to call you with our schedule and returning emails and phone
Sure.
calls and having people yell about insurance and potholes and trash and everything else, I don't think it's ever going to happen. But if you give us some dates, I'd be more than happy to come in and have a lunch with you, and I'll even buy the lunch. So
No problem.
on me, not on city.
One thing that I wanted to point out real quick, the dashboard that's available that I showed just a few minutes ago with the contracts, purchase orders, and checks, that's really more or less the central how it's all operating, right? This is where the numbers are going. That is a simple dashboard. You just have to scroll. So it is reverse chronological. So if you are keeping up with it each day, you will see what contracts are being in the approval process before they're approved, and it gives you an opportunity to intervene or ask questions or discuss it with the department heads.
I think that that's the best way to set up a training session for us to come in and learn how to use this, give several dates. I mean, I think that's just the way to do it, because if you depend on us to find the time, it might be a little difficult. So thank you. I appreciate it. It looks good. That's all I had.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Council. I guess what I'd like to, if you wouldn't mind, allow me to take a few minutes and kind of walk you through the procurement process for, say, something over $500,000, a large professional contract, something that doesn't go out for IFB, like consent decree work, the actual construction work. So, my staff or one of the other departments are going to put together a scope of work. We're going to work with purchasing. These are monies that have already been appropriated and budgeted, through our budgeting process through council. That RFP, which is the tool that we use, is advertised for, 4 weeks, 30 days. Once those submittals come in, those submittals include a scoring sheet, and a part of that scoring sheet is a cost proposal. The cost proposal is then ranked by the purchasing department. They look at all the numbers, they give a score depending on what that was weighted, and they provide that for each of the responders. I will pull together a committee of 3 to 5 people depending on the size of the RFP. And we will go through it, we will meet, we will ask for WebExes or demonstrations, just depending on the, complexity of what we're looking at. So, here we are, we're into this process 6 weeks or so. At that point, we select, the numbers are done, a vendor is awarded the contract, and we go through the contracting process that takes, 4 to 6 weeks. So you're at a couple months, 2 to 3 months to go through an RFP process. And this is a process that we utilize for anything that's of any significance in my department as well as any other department that is not bid. So my concern with this ordinance, with this, is that, so what happens at that point where this contract, we have a contract now, and the council has to approve that contract. And what if, for whatever reason, the council disagrees with my department staff about a submittal, about that procurement process? What happens at that point? Are we, if you reject it, you say, no, we're not going to do this. Do I, at this point, I have vendors that have submitted cost proposals, that their numbers are out there. That's a part of the rating, of the scoring. This is not engineering services that do not do cost proposals. So what happens at that point should the council decide not to approve that contract? We're 3 months into this process. The vendors have their information out there in the public domain, and then it's debated by this group about whether they merit being awarded this contract. And so at that point, would you select someone else? Would you score? Would you just reject it and then I start all over again with another 3-month process with the same scope of work that's going to go back out and with a lot of information, known to all the competing vendors? And so I have some concerns with that process. And it's not very clear. It just does. You have oversight. You have the authority to look at, review, and reject. So I guess my concern is, where do we go from there? What happens, and at what point are you reviewing and intervening into that process, and debating someone's credentials in this forum? What happens with those businesses, whether they're local, out of state? We have a variety of different things. Some are very specialized, some are very sole source. If people know that their business is going to be debated at this forum for these large contracts, we may see less people submit on our proposals. It's somewhat concerning to me. I've had, situations in the past where I've asked for council input on RFPs, and there's been difficulties in getting comments back, or because everybody's busy, and truthfully the responsibility lies on my department or my staff as the subject matter experts to review these, rate these, and provide, our form of a recommendation is to go forward with that council or not council, I'm sorry, with that contract. We recommend, rate, and then we send a contract to the mayor for his signature, and that's the ultimate approval, with the process we have. So that's my concern.
Okay. Councilwoman Fuller.
Are you talking about things that are subject to bid law?
Requests for proposals are subject to bid law.
Okay, well, see,
the amendment, what I saw, it said it excluded IFBs.
what we're talking about is things that are not subject to bid law. If it's subject to bid law, then it is not affected by what we're talking about right now.
Is that
Okay, that's
that it specifically the
Because there's already a system of putting it out for bid, so we're talking about other contracts. We're not talking about anything that's subject to bid law right now.
We don't have time to
I understand that, but the legislation, it specifically excluded in bids and emergency
the
declaration.
legislation, we don't want to do your job. We want to know.
I appreciate that.
We just want to know.
Okay.
That's all. We just want to know.
And may I ask you, and I think this is actually a question, just so that we, from an operational standpoint, can understand what this does include. We did understand and read that it says required for execution of contracts or expenditures. So there are some details that we will, of course, now that we see, we'll need to have to clarify so that we know what needs to come and what would not. But as Barbara mentioned, we do have concerns from an administrative standpoint, and we hope that what our chief CTO has offered can provide an alternative for the council to be able to have a full view in real time of all of the contracts, where they are in process, and that's something that you could see on a daily basis if you wanted, and be able to ask those questions before they even go through that long process. Right now, after the department head signs, it touches a lot of hands. The department heads, the finance director, the purchasing agent, the fair share coordinator, from the CAO to the mayor's office. So it goes through several hands before it ultimately comes to the mayor.
Maybe I have a question for Karen or for the city attorney. Is there something that needs to be done to make this more explicit, that we're not trying to create a redundancy on top of things that go out for bid law? Is that necessary?
It seems to be clear.
Okay. That was my first thing. And my second thing is for my colleague, Reverend Councilman Green. Is there some question that you have currently that would make you more comfortable with this today, other than that you just want to sit with it for a while? Is there something specific that you feel like you need that would make you more comfortable with it, or do you? I'm just curious if there's something you can do to satisfy you.
In fact, the chairman sent me a note, and before I vote on anything, I like to be clear. And of course, even with putting legislation on the other week, Councilman Nicholson wanted some legislation on. At first, we were not going to put it on, but because he wanted it on and he was clear, then I gave him the courtesy of putting it on. And as what she just brought before, as to the ins and outs of the whole deal, when I vote on it, I just want to be clear that everything, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, so that we won't have a Monday morning quarterback. And I don't think that we have anything so pressing, and thank you for asking the question, that we just got to vote on it today. Even back when we were doing the sanitation workers, it was crucial that those poor people get a raise, but we carried it out, and we carried it out, and we finally voted on it. As what she was talking about today, as they were not clear, I'm not clear on it. And I just wanted another 2 weeks just to be clear. Has nothing to do with whether I vote for it. I'm not saying I vote against it or vote for it. As Councilman Butcher said on the airport authority, the other week he says, okay, I just need postponement for 2 weeks. Whether I vote for it in 2 weeks or whether I vote against it, just give me 2 weeks. And we gave him that courtesy. And that has been always the courtesy of the council.
Well, if I honestly, I feel pretty prepared. I'm feeling kind of antsy about it, but I also appreciate courtesy. I do. So I'm inclined to yield to courtesy.
Thank you.
And I second Councilman Green's
Thank you.
postponement.
May I ask a question, just so that, I just want to be very, very clear. As I read the amendment, it specifically stated, referenced invitation for bid. If it's not applicable to, request for proposals, the other thing that we do a lot of, not specifically in my department, but in engineering, is request for qualifications. And that's a different process. That's the A&E committee process. Are those contracts then subject to this as well or not? Or, I'm just trying to get an idea of what's included and what's not included.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Councilman Green.
Thank you. And Councilman Fleury, I'm not lobbying to kill nothing. Let me explain this to you. When you came to my church and spoke, you were a different councilman then.
I object to
You can't
Mr. Chairman, I
object. I have the floor. When you was at my church is predominantly black. You gave me support that you was going to follow this man, and this man was this. But when you come on this side of the town, there's a different you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Boots.
I would prefer for us to move this along because I don't want to go through 2 more weeks of this. However, Councilman Green has never voted against a request for me to postpone. We have a good relationship up here. I'm very conflicted on this. I'm ready to move, but I also feel like that I should respect what Councilman Green's done for me in the past as well. Because I asked for 2 weeks on the airport, and I remember him reaching over and grabbing me and saying, "Is this what you really want?" And he voted my way. So.
And I will always do that.
And I feel very strongly that I want this to move on, but out of respect for my relationship with Councilman Green, I'm leaning towards a postponement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nicholson.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the administration the status of the contract with our new consent decree management firm? Has that been executed?
No. And Patrick can provide some detail if you need.
It has not been executed. We met with the 2 firms in the joint venture for 2.5 days last week to discuss the scope of the contract, and they're coming back in town this week to continue those discussions and to get a better understanding of the scope to prepare the contract. We hope to have a contract executed and in place for June 1st.
Mr. Furlong, I recommended to the administration that outside counsel be retained to assist with the negotiation of this consent decree contract, which concerns expenditure of $10 million a year. Do you know whether outside counsel has been retained to assist with those negotiations?
I do not know.
Councilman, I can answer that question. I've already talked to the city attorney about it. Even in last time, and the city engineer can vouch for this, even last time, we always get outside counsel to negotiate these large contracts.
Mayor, in this, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
I yield.
I'm sorry. Before this is done, will you consult with the council? Will you please keep an open line of communications with us? And if this contract is signed in the next 2 weeks, will you please bring us in and talk to us, since we have legislation on the table and the reason that I will vote to postpone this is because of my colleague, not because of anything that's been presented to us today. I want to give him enough time to review this, but I would hope in front of everybody sitting here right now that before any major contracts above $500,000 are executed while this is on the table, because I believe the votes are there to pass this today. I do. But as a courtesy to Councilman Green, I will vote along to postpone it. But in the meantime, would you please have an open line of communications with us? At least Mr. Fleury is the chairman of the Audit and Finance Committee. Speak to him before we enter into any huge $500,000 anything above $500,000. between now and then. And I'm not taking your power away. I'm not trying to take anybody's thunder. We've got a huge ordinance on the table right now that I'm prepared to vote for, and the only saving grace is the Reverend here.
Thank you, man.
So please, between now and then, since this is there, please keep us in the loop.
Yeah, we will communicate everything in accordance with Amendment Number 3. And as far as the consent decree work, we were going to, as negotiations started with the project manager, I was going to bring in Councilwoman Fuller, who was over the infrastructure committee, to make sure that she was abreast of what was going on. And I just want to say, in the spirit of harmony, that this isn't about me, and because you always say, hey, this isn't. I don't care who would be the mayor. This isn't about me personally, and I'm not taking it that way either. And this isn't about the council.
Business.
Yes, it is. And I say that to say it is a responsibility that I retain the integrity of this office, or every single interpretation of that word, while I'm here, no matter who would be the council and who I hand this office to. Like, I will not be the mayor forever. When I'm putting up any opposition to your points of views, I don't want you to think that it's personal whatsoever. As a matter of fact, in building relationships with you all, I was on the phone with Councilman Fleury yesterday, and when he told me about the amendment, when we talked about it, he told me about he actually gave us a great idea about the state checkbook, and I talked to my CTO about it. That gave us inspiration on the transparency. Councilman Bradford, you talked about accountability. My administration is doing everything we possibly can to pull out tools to make sure that we're held accountable. I talked about transparency. There is no mayoral administration in the history of Shreveport that has allowed its citizens to access information from the fiscal year budget as quickly and make it as accessible as my administration has, and also the tools that we're equipping council members with. And that we're willing to work with you with, so you can have real-time information, not even a retrospective look at what's been allocated. Real-time information of every contract that's signed, you name it. So the only, when it comes to accountability, oversight and jumping and looking over us and jumping into every portion of the operation, I'm just very mindful of that. And that's not the only tool in the toolkit. Transparency and other technology, there's a lot of other tools that we're willing to work with you on. But again, we have to make sure that we're maintaining the integrity of this office, and that also keeps us being effective in delivering on the promises that we gave to the people of Shreveport. That's all I have.
There is no way that technology will ever replace the personal relationship between the council and the mayor. I respect what Mr. Hanson's done, and it's a great tool, but I want and I task this administration over the next 2 weeks to have an open line of communications with this council, especially in anything related to a $500,000 purchase.
Councilman Boucher, I wasn't saying it replaced it.
I
was just saying it's something in addition to.
I want to be on the record as that.
Yeah, and I was saying it was something in addition to. That's the reason why I talked about, talking to Councilman Fleury last night, and I owe him and Willie lunch or something, I think I got.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so no, I wasn't saying it's a replacement. I'm simply saying that it's an added tool to make sure that we're held accountable. We appreciate accountability. That's what this job is about. We're all public servants.
Well, it looks like that at the CTO training that we're going to have for this, you're going to have to buy the three of us lunch now. I'm not the one buying lunch, but no, I appreciate that, Mayor. I feel like that we're all, and I've said this over and over again. I said it to somebody today in a text, and if they're watching, they're going to hear it again. We're all going the same place. I just feel like that, when we first started this, I was going to Dallas, you were going to Dallas, I went Highway 80, you went I-20. You've gone, I feel like, all the way to Houston, and we've gone all the way to Tulsa. And I want us to get on I-20 and travel together. And we can do it. That's what we were elected to do. And I stand by this 100%, and I'm not speaking for Councilman Nicholson, but I know in his heart, it didn't matter if Winnie the Pooh is the mayor. This man right here watches everything, and he is going to have this legislation on there regardless of who the mayor is. And I'm the same way. So this is not a slide to your administration or anything that's gone on. This is just what I think we all want is better government and a better Shreveport. So Mayor, I appreciate your openness, and please keep the line of communications going with us if we do postpone this.
Sure, Mayor.
Council. She about to bust out her seat, so let me, y'all
I
please,
just
let
want to
Councilwoman
call.
Fuller
This
speak.
is number 27. We got to get to like 40 something. I'm getting hungry. I don't want to go to Tulsa. I don't want to go to Houston. I want to go to dinner. I'm calling for the vote to postpone.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Postpone, it was, well, actually, Councilman Green had the motion and I seconded
So I'm just calling
to
for the vote.
postpone, so she called for the vote. I still had Councilman Bradford on to speak.
I'm sorry, Councilman Bradford.
Going to speak tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
I'll speak tomorrow. Matter of fact, I need to be speaking over at Lakeside.
You were supposed to be gone 45 minutes ago.
Motion carries with 7 to postpone.
Ordinance 32 is an ordinance levying and authorizing the collection of a tax of 15 3/100ths mills per dollar on all property subject to ad valorem taxation within the city of Shreveport. Mr. Chairman, there's a technical amendment, amendment number 1. There's a disagreement between the text, the words, and the numbers. This should read 15 3/100ths. And so this amendment changes that to the proper text because the figures are already there.
Move for Amendment 1, adoption.
So moved by Councilman Bradford, second by the chair. If there's no discussion, please vote.
Move as adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Bradford, second by Councilwoman Fuller. Move as adopted. Please vote. The motion carries with 7. Mr. Thompson.
Ordinance 33 will levy and authorize the collection of various taxes totaling 17 65/100ths mills per dollar on all property subject to ad valorem taxation within the city of Shreveport for the year 2019 in the amounts and for the purposes described herein.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Bradford, second by Councilwoman Fuller. Please vote. Motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 34 will levy and authorize the collection of a tax of 8 64/100ths mills per dollar on all property subject to ad valorem taxation within the bounds of the downtown development district of the city of Shreveport as defined by RS 33:2740.38 for the year 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Fuller, second by Councilman Bradford. If there's no discussion, please vote. Number 35. Motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 35 is a series ordinance pursuant to the general bond ordinance authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $20 million principal amount of taxable water and sewer revenue bonds of the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, as provided in a notice of intent given by resolution number 23 of 2018, adopted on March 13, 2018, establishing certain details of such bonds as required by the general bond ordinance, approving and confirming the sale of such bonds to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, pledging the net revenues of the city's combined water and sewer system to secure such bonds, prescribing the form and certain terms and conditions of said bonds, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
So move.
Second. Moved by Councilman Bradford, second by Councilwoman Fuller. Please vote. Motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 36 will revise Chapter 34 of the Code in regards to provisions for flood hazard reduction, and it otherwise provides with respect thereto.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Bradford. No discussion, please vote. And that motion carries with 7. Mr. Thompson.
Ordinance 37 amends the City of Shreveport's capital improvements budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilwoman Fuller. Please vote.
Linwood Avenue.
Linwood Avenue.
Linwood.
And that motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 38 amends the 2019 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Green, second by the chair. There's no discussion, please vote. Number 38. And that motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 39 amends the 2019 General Fund budget.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilman Butcher. If there's no discussion, please vote. That motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 40 also amends the 2019 General Fund budget.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Green, second by the chair. If there's no discussion, please vote. And that motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 41 also amends the 2019 General Fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilwoman Fuller. If there's no discussion, please vote. The motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 42 also amends the General Fund budget.
So moved.
2019.
Been moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilman Butcher. If there's no discussion, please vote. Motion carries with 7. Mr. Thompson.
Ordinance 43 adopts the 2019 Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilman Green and second by the chair. If there's no discussion, please vote. And that motion carries with 7. Mr. Thompson.
Ordinance 44 would amend the general fund budget. This concerns the school crossing guards. That was-
Chairman, I move
postpone.
Second.
Oh, y'all jump at the same time.
Got a bill, go get it.
Been moved by Councilman Bradford, and second by Councilman Butcher. To postpone number 44. If there's no discussion, please vote.
Do my job.
Councilman Bradford and Councilman Butcher. It carries with 7. Thompson.
Ordinance 45 amends the 2019 Riverfront Development Fund.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Green and second by the chair.
Question, is this what, 40 what?
45.
I said I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I need to know what.
Oh,
what-
there is one amendment.
And I'm familiar with the amendment.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering, what's the rationale of this from the administration?
It's our strategic plan. It's an allocation for that. In the spirit that we did this from courtesy to make sure we put it up to council. We looked at the previous administration. They spent about $60,000 on theirs. We looked at the administration before that. They spent about $500,000 on strategic planning. So in the spirit of transparency and fiscal responsibility, we're using only $40,000, and then we're doing other private fundraising to cover the whole bill to create our strategic plan for my administration.
I missed this. I wanted to discuss it.
I want to just add to that the future Shreveport, the transition team. That's what this is for, by the way.
And you're saying that you researched and saw where council provided funds for other mayors? Is that true?
Yeah. So no, you didn't approve it in the previous administration. It was just allocated. 60,000 was just allocated.
I mean,
Mr. Clerk, help me.
well,
Y'all did.
we looked in our records and we didn't find any evidence of that. I assume that it could have been paid by finance, but it didn't come through the council.
Okay. Specifically, what Give me a description of what the strategic plan initiative is again.
So the future Shreveport, the transition teams, is bringing community members in to plan with subcommittees from everything from entertainment to infrastructure to public safety. That's what this is for, to pay for the consultants that put all that together and that's giving us the report.
So at the end of the day, what would be the return on that investment?
A strategic plan to help us plan for the 4 years. It charts the course for the 4 years.
And we need professionals to help us with that.
Yeah, we do. There is no transition. There is no transition guidelines whenever a mayor takes office, and there is no mechanism to actually get citizen feedback as well. So we've not only planning for the future, but we've also set up a kind of a structure for incoming mayors to follow so that they can get citizen input if they like it in their strategic planning.
So
y'all got to put in a request to speak form if you go keep talking out loud in the meeting. That comes through the transmission, and I'm not being ugly, but I'm going to have to either ask you to come sit to the back or whatever, but that comes through the transmission. So I'm going to ask you, please, that one and that one. Yes, ma'am.
So, Mayor, I'm sorry. I'm, and I wish we'd have discussed this earlier, and we could have if I would have paid attention. But so without this initiative, and your strategic plan, are you saying that the city somehow would be impeded or be suffer from some lack of progression in this?
No, not the city. My administration. Again, we had that. Yeah, we hired professionals, so that we just didn't create the strategic plan for the city internal to my administration. We did it through citizen input, and then hiring those professionals. That's where this expense is coming from. And like I said, this is not the full expense. We're doing private fundraising as well to cover the full expense. This is a fraction of it.
Okay. So the option you feel would be that you could raise some.
Yeah, we're already doing that part.
All right, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, is it on the floor? The motion.
Well, there
On the
is
amendment.
there is an amendment. It's a technical amendment. It mentions, the actual amendment mentions the general fund. It's coming from the Riverfront Fund, but inside the amendment it says the general fund. The amendment is to change it to the Riverfront Fund.
So move on the amendment.
Second.
So moved by Councilman Green, second by Councilwoman Fuller on the amendment. Please vote.
We voting on the amendment? Or
On the amendment, only.
Okay.
It's a technical amendment. Inside the ordinance, the title says that it's coming from the Riverfront Fund.
Right.
Inside the ordinance, it mentioned general fund. It strikes general fund and puts Riverfront Fund.
Okay.
The money's coming from the Riverfront Fund.
The Riverfront Fund.
Right.
I just have some reservations about this. I'm sorry.
So moved on the ordinance as amended, Mr. Chair.
Just waiting on the
Oh,
vote.
what was it? I'm sorry.
That motion carries with 6 on the amendment.
Now,
Do we have a second?
So moved on the ordinance as amended.
All right. It's been moved by Councilman Green, second by Chip. Please vote. Motion fails with 5.
Ordinance number 46 is an annexation ordinance, tag number 18-04, to enlarge the limits and bounds of the city of Shreveport by annexing the Gulf Ridge Commercial Subdivision Development in Section 8, Township 16 North, Range 13, West Caddo Parish.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Green. There's no discussion, please vote. Motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 47 is a series ordinance pursuant to the general bond ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $100 million of water and sewer revenue bonds, Series 2019B, and water and sewer revenue junior lien Series 2019C of the City of Shreveport, establishing certain details of such bonds as required by the general bond ordinance, approving and confirming the sale of such bonds, pledging the net revenues of the system to secure such bonds, prescribing the form, certain terms and conditions of said bonds, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. There is one amendment. The amendment deletes the ordinance as introduced and substitutes the attached ordinance, and that's to insert final information.
So moved on the amendment.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Green and second by Councilwoman Fuller. Please vote. Motion carries with 7.
That was on the amendment.
So moved on the ordinance as amended.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Green and second by Councilwoman Fuller. As amended. 48. 47, I'm sorry. Please vote. Motion carries with 7.
Ordinance 48 authorizes the city to close and restrict vehicular access to Lake Street from Commerce Street to Shreveport Center.
So moved.
Second.
To close, correct? It's been, all right. I still have my,
So if we don't want to close, we vote no.
if you do not want to close it, vote no. If you agree with closing it, vote yes.
So let me ask you a question, Mr. Chairman. If this fails, what would be the time frame of opening this street? Is there any type of schedule that would be worked out?
That would be worked out.
That'd be worked out. Okay.
And this motion passes with, it passes with 4.
Ordinance 49 revises Chapter 2, Article 2, titled City Council of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to the formal creation and codification of the Shreveport City Council Audit and Finance Committee, and to reorganize sections and divisions within Article 2.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, second by Councilman Fleury. 49. Please vote. Motion carried with 6.
Mr. Chairman, those are all of the items on the regular agenda. There is nothing on the table agenda.
All right.
There are no appeals.
No appeals. Are there any reports from officers, boards, or committee?
Inquiring, Mr. Chairman,
Councilman
as to when we will have the next Public Safety Committee meeting.
I was trying to plan it for this week, and then things just got out of hand. But I would say two weeks from today or Monday. That's good with y'all.
All right. And is there a clerk's report?
Mr. Chairman, the 2 people who have been appointed came before the council yesterday, Mr. Savannah and Mr. Mayrow.
Okay. All right. Mr. Perkins, Mayor Perkins, do you have any additional communication?
Yes. I just want to go back to ordinance number 45. If I change something, like I've gotten a lot of scrutiny for changing things, if I try to do the same thing that other administrations have done, clearly I don't get support from the council on this, and I'm really just trying to do the right thing and be equipped with the tools. Even being transparent about it, bringing it to you all when in the past they haven't, being fiscally responsible with 45 and making sure that I did, on the private side, raise funds for this particular initiative. If I would have used the, city resources with this, if I would have used city employees, the bill would have been much higher. So I'm pretty disappointed that we couldn't get support for Ordinance 45 today. Yeah, that's the only communication I have.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry. Councilwoman Fuller.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, respectfully, the right time to have brought this would have been before everything started. Like, you knew who you wanted to use as your consultants. You had your committees worn out. We all saw that. That would have been the time to come to us, like our first Tuesday meeting, and said, hey, this is what I would like you all to invest in this. Here are the people that are going to be involved in their backgrounds. I'm going to be getting the rest of this from private dollars, and this is the comprehensive layout and outline of what we're going to be getting. And then when it was time for the invoice to come due, not after all of the meetings have been had and the papers being written. Like, I have no problem supporting a new vision and getting and investing in the direction you're trying to steer the city, but the lead time on it is bad. We needed to know this in January.
And
one more thing.
Oh, my fault. I thought you.
Even now, the information, the document with the fact sheet doesn't say explicitly everything that I would want to see to justify the expense. You know?
Yeah, no, I completely understand that, Councilwoman Fuller, and we can provide more information if that's what's needed. If we did not get to an ideal thing, would have been to start now knowing your perspective on this. But again, we thought that a pretty good standard was to go above and beyond what we've seen in the past. And yeah, we might have fell short on getting to that ideal point, but the point is, in good faith, we try to do everything we can, and we came to you all to ask for support with this to help me plan into the future. And, you know, it fell short today. But if information will help, then we'll definitely provide more information in a future council meeting to get this done. So thank you for that.
Can I just add one more thing?
Councilwoman Fuller.
Come back not just with like a little bit more explicit information. I mean, I know that this stuff is on your website, but it needs to be with your fact sheet. But also where the other administrations have paid for this out of funding without coming to council. That's important to know because we don't have any of that documentation. We need that. Like anything you can give us so we can see what they spent and how much they spent and what they spent it on.
All right.
That'd be helpful.
We'll get all that information, and we've sent some of it to Art already, so we will send that as soon as the council meeting's over.
Thank you.
I got Councilman Bradford. Councilman Bradford.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to remind the mayor that things change, and a previous mayor introduced the same resolution 12 times in a row. So if you can, enhance it, it may go around and come around. But I'm just saying, don't be discouraged. I mean, it's nothing personal.
I got you.
All business. Okay.
All right.
But Mr. I had to somebody just text me and say, will you please announce that there's a meeting on May the 6th at 5 o'clock at Winfield Funeral Home. I don't know who it's from, but I don't. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm headed, and anybody want to go with me, the Community Oriented Policing, COP is having a community meeting at Lakeside Recreation Center. It started at 5:30. I'm going over there. So anybody got some time, they can come go with me. LeVay, you want to go?
What they got to eat? I already told y'all I'm ready for dinner.
Well, they got some cookies, I know.
It's not going to cut it.
I'm trying to get some clarification on how we voted on Lake Street. I'm sorry. But, Councilman Fleury, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, I too want to say that I think a little bit more information, and I would like to have a dialogue as to where we're bringing the money out of, versus another place that I might suggest.
Okay, that's no problem. I'll go into
and I believe that you can come back with that, and we would have a little more enlightenment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see Sheila Rago and the engineer for just a second, okay? Right over here.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman Nicholson, Councilman Butcher, that's it?
I have nothing further, Mr. Chair.
And I have Councilman Green.
Yes, sir. There's an EVA meeting going on at my church at It starts at 6:30. The actual meeting is at 7. The owner of products, that's a company called Evolve, and those of you that's interested in the hemp products, he will also be discussing that, and they have basically have a top-of-the-line hemp product. So Union Mission is located at 6029 Buncombe Road, zip code 71129. Y'all also invited to church as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Butcher.
Real quick, since I see Patrick still here, where are we with those annexations that were spoken about to close in some of these holes? Are we still moving on those? I hadn't heard anything from y'all. I know that the Southern Loop and Wallace Lake Road was one of my big deals where we could kind of start moving forward. I think there was a traffic study that was done down there, according to Gary.
Yeah, there's a long list of potential areas to annex, and property management is looking at that list, and it's kind of cumbersome to do it all at once, so they're proposing to do it one at a time.
Okay.
The first thing we're looking at is closing some holes out by the airport, but I'll get the administration on that list and see how they want to proceed.
The priority for me would be Southern Loop and Wallace Lake Road, Mayor. If we could kind of move on that. I've got a lot of constituents out there that are wanting us to do something as far as either a roundabout or a light, but right now that section of Southern Loop is in the parish. So pretty much from Fire Station 22 all the way down to, I like hearing myself, that's cool. From Fire Station 22 all the way to I-49, the road is out. And I would like for us to be able to have control of that intersection now that we have that new subdivision going in down on Wallace Lake Road, the Grove. So if we could kind of move on that. It's just a roadway, so I shouldn't think that would be too.
The city has control of Southern Loop. It is a city road. It's a city right-of-way. We maintain the road and we have control of Southern Loop.
But we can't put the red light there. That's why the parish has to be involved, right?
We would coordinate with the parish if that's the action we took.
According to Commissioner Atkins, there's money that's been allocated. I think
From the parish?
From the parish for like $200,000.
Okay.
Which could, and Gary Norman and I have talked about this a little bit, that could lead to us going ahead and doing a traffic light there. I personally, when I was a fire chief out there, worked 2 fatality accidents there. And every time there's a wreck there, I get a phone call or an email. And really right now I have no real jurisdiction over that to put that in because it's outside the city.
Can we prioritize that with the two projects he referenced? Can we prioritize that one over the other?
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll knock it out.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
I have a question for the mayor.
Okay, I got Councilman Fleury and then Councilman Green.
Mr. Thompson, what would the action of the council would it take to go to get a vote up or down on verbatim, going back to verbatim minutes?
All you need to do is change the rules.
Okay, thank you.
Let me back on that. Can you give us an estimate of the cost of going back to that procedure?
We're pulling that information together.
Because my position is simply that there was a time when we did not have live streaming, and we did not have other means of communicating to our public. Channel 6, I mean the Cablevision 6 is airing our meetings, and they're stored. They're stored on YouTube or on the city's website. They can always go and look at the minutes of the meeting. I mean, look at the conversation.
Well, my preference was going back to when we have a special meeting, and we had no cameras and nothing.
Well, that was because the parish commission was in here. We couldn't.
I understand, but we didn't have it in verbatim.
But under the rules as they are, any request that we do anything verbatim will be done.
Say that again, Art.
If there's a statement or something that you want, or if you want the entire, if you want us to do the entire minutes verbatim, all you have to do is to say do it. Or if there's any particular statement or comment that you want to go in the record, it allows that to occur.
Allowed to do that? Okay,
Yes.
well, I think that would solve it. my question there. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Green.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, would you give me an update on the light at St. Vincent and also on Tate Street?
Yeah, we've been working on that. The only thing is right now, since the funding wasn't allocated for it, it'll be, expensive. I forget the exact amount of dollars. Since the funding wasn't allocated, we're just shifting the funding around in our public works budget to take care of it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I think that's it. Mayor Perkins? Nothing from administration? If there's nothing else, then this meeting is adjourned.
May I have
Yes, sir. You're right.